I can hear you. I'm seeing the bars and tones still, but I can hear you. Yeah. If you want to switch it while I'm checking audio while you're checking audio, I'll run some audio for you real quick. Check, check. One, two. Check. One, two, three. Check, check. One, two. Check. One, two, three. Checking one, two. Check. One, two, three. One, two, three, four. Check. One, two, three, four, five, six. Checking one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Awesome, and I'm seeing you, so we are good. Have a great meeting tonight. Thanks.
I'll now open the meeting and take a roll call. I'm Kalina Vendetti, Jim Franklin,
Yes.
Dot McFarland,
Yes.
Marilyn Cuzzadoy,
Yes.
Brian Payne.
Yes.
Great. Please note that we're doing a hybrid meeting with in-person and virtual attendance. So if a member of the virtual public would like to make comments during a public hearing, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, and you'll be assigned a speaking time. If you're listening in via dial tone, telephone dial-in, press *9 to raise your hand, and then press *6 to unmute yourself. This meeting's being recorded by the local scene, and we're very grateful. And a record of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they're able. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify me at this time. Great. So we already signed our documents, Matt?
Yep, we had a invoice for 20 Marion Drive peer review. We had an invoice for Callista Farm trail mowing, invoice for the Assistant Conservation Agent job posting, and reimbursement for Commissioner Cazadoi for purchase of Wetlands Enforcement Manual.
Super. I'm going to move right along to action items. I'm going to reopen a public meeting to discuss the request for determination of applicability for 28 Rabath Road, submitted by Stenbeck and Taylor on behalf of property owner Frank Dirico for proposed removal of hazard trees and treatment of invasive plants. First, we'll hear a briefing from the conservation agent. If any clarifications needed from the applicant during or after the briefing, we may ask you to respond to that, Matt.
Yeah, I don't have any update on this. We have no updated materials. Mr. DeRico stopped by my office either last week or the week before just to discuss the area in question, stated that he wanted to continue mowing it. I suggested that, like I said during the meeting, it's just that it's not legally permitted, so it either needs to be permitted or restored. And they're here tonight, so we can hear from them if you'd like and see what they have to say.
We'd like to hear what you have to say. Would you please identify yourself for the record?
Sure. My name is Ann Soboleski. I'm from Prince, Lobel, and Ty, and I represent the applicants.
Certainly.
So
I don't think that's on, is it?
It's on.
We can't hear you. I can't hear anything.
it has a green light.
Yeah, you're
I
good.
can't hear anything.
Are your microphones working?
There's no speakers in here,
It's not a speaker.
so it's all for
anymore.
the for the
It's for the
TV and
recording.
the Zoom thing.
If you just
But we can
speak
try
up
to speak loudly.
as best you can, we'd all appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So this is a request from the property owner for 3 specific tasks. As you know, there was a report that was provided to the Conservation Commission back in August indicating the presence of invasive species. So the first component of the request was to be able to remove the mugwort and the tree of heaven that has colonized the property. The second request was for the removal of some damaged trees, in particular some trees that are located proximate to the residence, that is number 30, to prevent them from falling on the residence. And then the third component is the request to mow the area that had been reseeded and rehabilitated. It's a banked area. I will say that we do have some photographs of the area prior to any of the disturbance that was remedied previously. The area was an area that had short vegetation in it. It was not a tall grass area. The applicant and in the course of evaluating the situation would like to continue to maintain that as a short grassed area as opposed to long grass for a number of reasons, primarily the need to cut down on the tick population. They've had a lot of Lyme's disease in both one of the property owners has had Lyme's disease twice, and Mr. DeRico is currently on antibiotics for Lyme's disease. It's a desire to keep the ticks down in an area that never was tall grass. And I think it would be reasonable to permit mowing of that area just to keep keep that tick population down. They're not proposing to use any pesticides or anything. It would simply be preventative. As Mr. DeRico has told me, his dogs will go out in that area and will come back with 60 ticks on them. So we don't think that it is unreasonable to ask to be able to mow in that area in addition to the proposed removal of invasive vegetation and the trees.
All right. Thank you very much. Do you want to respond to that? Yeah. I can move right to
Only
public
sort of.
comment.
I'm trying to look back at the original RDA filing, and I think that if they have evidence of that area being maintained, then they could provide that evidence, and we should continue until we have the time to review all of that. Because it pretty clearly was a vegetated area before in terms of, it may not have had tall grass, it had tall trees. So allowing a large area of riverfront area to a perennial stream to be clear-cut and then maintained as lawn area off of an RDA filing is something that would require a little more attention. Just give me 1 second to... Yeah, I don't recall this having anything to do with mowing in the first place. It did say proposes maintenance of existing landscaping, including removal of danger/damaged trees and removal of invasive vegetation. And it was brought up through our review that there was an area there that had been restored as part of the enforcement process that had since been mowed. So I think my recommendation would be to continue this and have them provide whatever information they have on that being part of the, maintained part of the property previously, and maybe modify the RDA to include mowing that area. And we can go about it from there.
Do you have any other comment?
Just so that I understand, so is the specific request that we submit in writing an amendment to include mowing in that area?
I think that if you're saying that this RDA is to include mowing of that area, then it should include that. So yeah, I would say modify that, but also you're saying you have evidence, photo evidence, that that area was maintained.
Yes, it was.
Because the only thing we have is aerial imagery that shows that that was a forested area with a 2-track driveway going to a house out near the pond. So any evidence you have would help the commission come to a decision on that.
We certainly can provide that, and I will just say, that looking at aerial evidence where there had been tree cover, which we agree, there had been tree cover, and that was part of the restoration project to restore the trees in that area. But from the aerial photographs, you can't actually physically see what the condition of the ground is like underneath the trees very well. So we will provide you with additional information.
I'll make a motion to continue. How much time does the applicant need?
When is your next meeting?
November 26th. And then December 10th after that.
December 10th? December 10th, please.
All right, so I'll make a motion to continue this to December 10th.
Just quickly, we would need that information at least a week before the date of the meeting, otherwise it would be continued again.
Understood.
All right,
I will
thank you.
second that.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded. I'd like a vote on the motion. Dot?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Kalina's a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll see you on the 10th.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now open a public meeting to discuss the request for determination of applicability, we call that RDA, for 19 Rocky Nook Avenue. This was submitted by Robert Nardo on behalf of the property owner, Ted Tamulionis, for proposed demolition of a single-family house. Could we have a briefing from the conservation agent, Matt? the conservation agent's going to give us a quick briefing
Thank you.
first.
You got the name right. Edmund Samuelis,
Okay. And maybe is
and I'm Lisa Barlow.
Lisa Barlow. Thank you very much. And is it Tamulionis?
Correct.
That was just me sabotaging
No,
your
the first
name.
name, you said Ted.
And it's, I said Ed. I said Ed, but
Okay,
it's,
but it's
it's Edmund. I'll fix that, though. It's good for the record. Well, Edmund is, a great name. Let's use it. Okay. So, let's hear a briefing from the conservation agent, and if any clarification is needed, during that, we'll be asking you for some information. Okay.
Applicant proposes demolition of the existing single-family house at 19 Rocky Nook Avenue within the 100-foot buffer to coastal bank and other coastal resource areas. My understanding is that Grady Consulting is working on an NOI filing for a replacement dwelling. The application shows erosion control across the front yard, in between the dwelling and the coastal resource areas. We had a site visit November 5th. It was discussed that the silt sock should also be run up the edge of the driveway after demolition, and that stabilizing the open dirt area beneath the house would be crucial during the period between demolition and reconstruction. Again, there's been no NOI filed for construction of the house, so there could be months in between when this is being demolished and when anything be put in its place. The reason this came to us was the contractor was at the building department looking for a demo permit and planning on starting work right away. So we informed him that he needed to have a permit from the commission for that. I suggested a thick wood chip layer as an option or large tarps weighted down. The applicant's having trees removed from the backyard. They are invasive Norway maples, but they are out of commission jurisdiction. Proposal appears to meet all the standards of WPA and KWPR, requiring no further filing. The applicant should be aware of the potential for $300 fines to be issued every time or every day sediment-laden water reaches Kingston Bay. All necessary steps to prevent that must be taken, and that's related to what I was talking about with stabilizing the area that's currently beneath the house. The commission, unless they have other questions, may issue a -3 determination approving the project as shown, as it appears to meet all the standards of WPA and KWPR. And you may also want to add a special condition regarding that site stabilization. As I mentioned, it might be months before anything's built in that place.
Mr. Tamulionis, would you like to comment?
You
Anybody
just have
want
to
to
go up to the
comment?
microphone if you have any.
Come right up
comments.
to the microphone, please. Identify yourself for the record, your name and address, and
My name is Lisa Barlow. My address is 23 Chilton Ave, Kingston.
thank you.
And I agree with everything he said. We plan to stabilize in between the demolition and the build on the ways he spoke of. We understand about being fined if any debris reaches the water.
Okay. Do you have any discussion from the commission on this? All right. If we're in agreement, then can I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to issue a -3 DOA with these special condition regarding site stabilization.
Super, do I have a second on that?
Second.
All right, I'm going to take a vote on that. Dot?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Kleen's a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And so the motion's been made to issue a -3 DOA approving the project, possibly with conditions, and that's passed. Okay. You know what?
We're not bad people.
You're not alone.
I'm sorry. Go home right now. Lay down.
Good luck.
Take care. You bet. Right, so, ready to move on to enforcement?
Hearings.
Hearings, we have a minute, it is on 1 minute to go. All right. All right, it's 1:15, and so we're going to move on to the hearing part of the commission meeting. And Section A, this is the Baker Ave matter. It's on map 58, lot 92-6. This is a notice of intent. We call that NOI. So I reopen a hearing for the NOI for the proposed construction of a single-family home with a driveway, garage, deck, roof water infiltration system, drinking water well, utilities, grading, and landscaping within 100 feet of the buffer zone to a bordering vegetative wetland and the 200-foot riverfront area to an intermittent stream on Baker Avenue. We could hear a briefing from you, Matt, if
Sure.
you wouldn't mind.
So this was opened much earlier in the year, and it was decided it would go out to peer review. We needed to wait for the applicant to provide several things before we put it out to peer review, including the wetlands report on the stream and the stormwater calculations for the future use that's shown for the infiltration gallery. We received those. We requested 3 quotes for a peer review. We only had 1 reply. It was from Beals and Thomas. They quoted it at $5,100. Just very quickly, from KWPR, hiring outside consultants. Conservation Commission may impose reasonable fees for the employment of outside consultants engaged by the Conservation Commission for specific expert services. They'll be deemed necessary by the Commission to come to a final decision on an application submitted to the Concom. Skipping through some of the bulky language. Commission may require the payment of the consultant fee at any point in its deliberations prior to a final decision. Commission shall give notice to the applicant of the amount of the fee to be charged for hiring an outside consultant and a request for payment of said fee in its entirety. Such notice shall be deemed to have been given on the date it is delivered with return receipt requested. Once payment is received, an outside consultant shall be chosen and the applicant shall be notified of the selection and identity of the consultant. No such costs or expenses shall be incurred by the applicant if the application or request is withdrawn within 5 days of the date notice is given. It essentially says that the consultant has 10 days after request of payment to pay the fee, or else the Commission shall deny the application. So, bottom line on this one, Commission should choose whether to go forward with the proposal by Beals and Thomas or to request further quotes. We have used Beals and Thomas for several projects, including a retroactive peer review. I have never used them for a active peer review for a filing in progress, but they have done a good job with everything else that I've used them for. They do occasionally, we do occasionally see them here representing applicants, but it's a large company, and I don't think there's any real conflict of interest in using them on a peer review, or I wouldn't have sent them anything in the first place. So, up to the Commission how they want to go forward, but if you're okay with it, I'd recommend going forward with the $5,100, and I can notify the applicant tomorrow. I'm not sure if there's anybody on to that. I did notify the applicant when the deadline had passed, and I only had the 1 response, but I haven't had a response back from them.
Do you need a vote on this, Matt, or just?
Yeah, I think the Commission needs to vote on going forward with the Beals and Thomas peer review, unless you want more quotes. If you want more quotes, I can go back to that.
I'm comfortable with Bill and Thomas. Any comments from the Commission on that? Beals and Thomas versus?
No, so if you need a motion, I would move that we go forward with Beals and Thomas.
All right, do I have a second on that?
Second.
So there's a motion to put this out to Beals and Thomas for peer review. It's been seconded to, Scott?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Colleen is yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you very much.
Just as a point I forgot to mention earlier, this is the rare event where there's no commissioners on Zoom. If you want to do just voice votes on everything, you can, to save a little bit of time. You can just do all in favor, all opposed,
All right.
if you want.
We'll see. All right, moving on to Section B. This is 45 Rocky Nook Avenue. You find that on map 39, lot 24. This is a notice of intent.
We got to continue that, close and continue that, or continue that meeting.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion to continue this matter.
Let me give you a date on that really quick.
We have November 26th?
No,
No?
no, we'll continue that.
Thanks, Jim.
We will continue that to, what's it? First meeting in January, 14th.
So there's been a motion to continue this matter to January 14th.
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
We have a
Second.
motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, the motion carries. So we're going to move on to Section B. This is 45 Rocky Nook Avenue. As I said, map 39, lot 24. This is for a notice of intent. I open this hearing for the NOI for the proposed construction of a previous deck and a 2-foot by 11.2-foot addition to an existing single-family house within the 100-foot buffer zone to coastal wetland resource areas at 45 Rocky Nook Avenue. Could you brief us on that, Matt?
I'll pull the plan up here. We have Paul from Grady. He can
Thank
give
you.
a presentation first.
Would you
Sure.
like to, Paul, please
Yeah, sure.
identify yourself for the record?
Paul Seberg from Grady Consulting.
Thank you.
So I'm here for this notice of intent application for a proposed deck and also a small addition at 45 Rocky Nook Avenue. This site currently consists of an existing single-family dwelling. There is a paved driveway to the west of the existing house, and an existing deck located east of the existing house. There's a 100-foot buffer zone that's associated with the top of Coastal Bank that's located on the opposite side of Rocky Nook Ave. The applicants are proposing to remove the existing deck on the front of the house and construct a new deck to the north and to the east of the house. The deck will be a pervious deck with crushed stone beneath it. They are also proposing a 2-foot by 11.2-foot addition off the south side of the house, shown in that light brown color. The addition will be cantilevered with no foundation below. We are proposing a silt sock erosion control barrier between the work and the resource area, shown in orange. That said, I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
All right, do you have anything for him, Matt?
Not repeating anything that he just said. We did a site visit November 5th. One of the things we had to do was confirm that the existing deck was impervious, just to make sure the calculations were all there. And it, for the most part, was. Marilyn was there and can speak to. It's one of the harder things, I think, sometimes to figure out when we mandate that it's pervious. We say it has to be larger than 3/8 inch spacing. But something less than 3/8 can still be pervious depending on the situation. So it's typically when we're looking at something like that, you want to see that nothing's getting through, that it's mostly really tight, and that was mostly the case. A few boards where it was wider than that, but for the most part, I would say it was impervious deck existing, and they're proposing pervious. Area underneath the pervious deck was going to be dressed with 6 inches of crushed stone to help with infiltration. The deck was ending on the, I think, west side or northwest side at a outdoor shower, 5-foot by 7-foot outdoor shower. I did question drainage on that. I wasn't sure if there was any sort of drainage system for that, if it was supposed to be dug down or a drywall or anything like that, just the 6 inches on top of, just to make sure that, I don't know how often those things get run or if that can be problematic with a lot of water kind of running out from that, but that was my only thought on that. ESC is proposed along the limit of work, a 12-inch mulch-filled silt sock, which should be perfectly fine for this. There is a paved public way between the property and the wetland resource areas, and the addition is proposed outside of the 50-foot buffer to the most landward coastal resource area, Coastal Bank. So it does meet the structural setbacks of KWPR. Plan details existing, jurisdictional impervious coverage at 37.7%, proposes a 3.9% reduction. So proposes at 33.8%, and I did confirm those measurements on the plan. We don't need a variance request since the property is already past the 15%, and the proposal is reducing the percent impervious cover. The usual point I've been making about the fact that this is landward of one of the mass shellfish growing areas, open under conditional approval after being closed for a long time due to bacterial contamination. We should make every effort to limit runoff in this area. Eelgrass beds are declining throughout the bay, and they are declining because of eutrophication and siltation. Commission should discuss construction sequence and methods. Will the ground be disturbed before the gravel is placed? If not, will water simply sheet off towards the ocean? In other words, is there too much compaction there for water to truly infiltrate, even when you have 6 inches of crushed stone on the top? If that's the case, then silt sock might not be enough if there's a large rain event. And what was the plan to minimize disturbance for deck supports? I would say this is an easy project to permit, provided that the area beneath the deck actually infiltrates water rather than shedding it off. It doesn't really violate any specific performance standard of KWPR or WPA and does reduce the % impervious coverage within jurisdiction. We had a comment from wastewater that they recommend protection of the sewer line during construction. The water superintendent had concerns regarding possible impingement from footings on water infrastructure. I did throw a couple of potential special conditions in there. Decking to remain in perpetuity with at least 3/8 in spacing between boards to maintain a pervious condition. I put down that they could have painted stakes in place detailing the sewer and water line locations during construction, and that should help with avoiding any issues there. Proposed additional stockpile of silt sock on this one. There was nothing on this, right? You didn't propose it on this one.
We can certainly have any sort of materials surrounded by silt sock.
Again, I don't know that it's hugely necessary here unless there's going to be more ground disturbance. But you're saying there's not. Basically, you're just putting 6 inch on top of what's there.
Yep.
Any dumpster used as part of the project must be covered, and the usual blurb about outdoor chemicals and fertilizers. No pesticides and herbicides within the 100-foot buffer zone, only organic fertilizers. And again, organic fertilizers, I'm not sure that those should be used in these situations either, really close to the ocean, but that's up for the commission to discuss. And honestly, I don't know that there's much grass on this property, particularly after this project, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's about all I got, unless you have questions.
Before we move to the commission, because I know there will be discussion, are there any members of the public who would like to join in to a public comment on this matter? I don't
Do you see any hands? I don't see any
anything.
hands.
All right, so now I'll open it up to the commission for discussion.
I just have a question, if I may. So it sounds like you're talking about adding 6 inches of stone above the existing whatever's there. What's there?
It's currently just somewhat grassy. There was a little bit of a planting bed that kind of ran along on the side of the house here.
Oh, sorry, I just closed that out on you. trying to pull up pictures.
It's a little bit lower against the house with those planting areas, but ideally, we might actually remove a little bit of material just to have that crushed stone set, level flush within the adjacent grade. Yeah.
The reason for my question is because in this area, we often see complaints of water once something's disturbed, and we establish a positive 6 inch slope away from the foundation wall that ends up pushing water on somebody else's. We don't want the water running across the street or, running into, any of the sewer, grates that might be there or may not be there, I don't know, or running beyond it to the bay.
Right, the 6 inches of stone will retain that water and infiltrate it before it runs off the site. So.
Okay, so you guys will disturb the soil enough so it'll allow the water to
Exactly.
accumulate in
We'll
the
set that-
stone and perk into the soil?
Yeah, we'll let that stone be a little bit lower than the grade so that it allows for it to retain and infiltrate.
Okay, all right. I'm okay as long as we're holding the water on site, and if you're telling me that you're grading it back towards that stone area so that it's not dispersing, then I'll
Yeah,
accept
it will essentially
that.
be level and then allow it to fill up until it reaches the peak and then it would overflow over that.
Okay.
But there's not going to be a significant amount of water actually entering that stone.
Right, I just don't want to, I don't want a mound where it's just pushing
Yeah,
and
exactly.
running.
Yep.
That's my main concern. There's other ways we can do it, where we can get into some dry wells, recommendations, but that's, you know, that's up to the commission.
Could,
Did you have something else, Matt?
yeah, just on that note, for anything like that, I think you would probably need a special condition, because I don't think that was in here. It was basically putting the stone on, we don't have any grading on the plan, right?
Right, there's no grading, but it's not really gonna require any grading. It's gonna basically maintain that existing grade. Only maybe a small excavation of, 4 to 6 inches to set that stone in, but essentially maintaining the existing grade.
I'd like that to be on what, ultimately what we, I
Just
think
a-
we'll be approving.
Special condition on that, otherwise, essentially, you could come in and just dump 6 inches on top of what's there, and it would meet what's shown, right? So it's, simple condition on that could do the trick, and then it does seem like the only thing that's adding water is the shower. Everything else, under existing conditions, the water is coming down to whatever's there right now and either infiltrating or running off.
The plants that are there now will be removed, correct? They would end up underneath the deck, if I was looking at the picture correctly.
Plants were already removed when we were at the site visit.
Oh, they're already gone, okay.
Yeah.
So the soil's been disturbed anyway.
Minimal, it was more like flush cutting.
Okay.
Anything else from the commission? Right. Do I hear a motion to close the hearing to approve this, subject to the order of condition?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Hearing's closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
We have to actually vote on the path, issuing the NOI. Approving the NOI.
Make your motion.
Take your motion.
All right, so, Matt, give me the broad strokes again. We're approving NOI.
Yeah, you're issuing orders of conditions to approve the project with the special conditions as discussed.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions with the special conditions as discussed in the meeting.
Second.
Okay. Again, it's, we have a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Nope, just at the closing.
All right, Section C, this is 20 Marion Drive, also known as 1 Royson Drive. You find that on map 75. This is at lot 31-1. This is a request for amendment to order of conditions, and I reopen a hearing for the request for amendment for the proposed installation of a sediment forebay and rain garden within the 200-foot riverfront area of Smellbrook. Let's hear a briefing from the conservation agent, if we may.
Sure. Let me stop sharing my screen for a second. And, okay, we do have Amy. So we have Amy and Janet online from Horsley Witten Group. They handle the peer review on this project. They submitted a updated peer review report. It was November 6th, maybe? And essentially, what this came down to, not rehashing everything we've already discussed on this, is the peer review is supposed to answer 3 questions. Does the project proposed in the amendment request meet the RFA standards of WPA and KWPR? Does the alternatives analysis incorporate all feasible options? And is what has been proposed the best feasible stormwater management option in that it's the least impactful to wetland resource areas? The November 6th update to the peer review report answers those questions in the following way. I have modified the answers for conciseness for our purposes here. Answer to question 1, no, the applicant has not demonstrated compliance with the RFA performance standards. And they went into it in a little more depth that the rain garden itself does not qualify as mitigation for disturbance in the riverfront area because it needs to be maintained over time. So it's not the same as having a passive naturalization area or something else protected behind conservation posts or something along those lines. You do have to go in there and clear vegetation out of it and remove accumulated sediment and whatnot. So it is not the same. The answer to number 2, also no proprietary practices could have been shown, and that would mean stormwater BMPs or SCMs. Horsley Witten Group does say that type of alternative would likely result in greater disturbance to the riverfront area, but at the time they didn't realize Royston Drive was a private road under the control of the applicant. Combined with the fact that the creation of a proprietary practice could occur in portions of the riverfront area consisting of turf, lead me to believe that all feasible alternatives were not shown. And number 3 essentially says a rain garden is likely the best solution to address the roadway runoff. I sort of made the same notes about them not being clear on the roadway ownership and possibly not factoring in all feasible alternatives. I asked Horsley Witten Group to be prepared to speak tonight to the commission as to why additive possibilities weren't considered. For instance, if the best answer is a rain garden with an SCM for pretreatment or infiltration galleries under the roadway in addition to a rain garden, why was that not discussed? So we can probably stop there before I get into recommendations, if you'd like, and we can hear from Horsley Witten Group, we can hear from the representative, and go from there. Does that make sense?
Are you ready for us to hear from you then?
I'm sorry.
Would you like to identify yourself?
Oh,
for
well,
the
thank you.
record?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local environmental and land use attorney, and I'm representing Royston Properties LLC, as well as Lawrence DeMar this evening. Mr. DeMar is actually home ill, but attending virtually, and I'm here with Rick Grady, our professional engineer with Grady Consulting. So do you wish to hear from Ms. Ball prior to us responding, or how would you wish to proceed?
I'd go with
Let's hear from from you first. Okay?
Horsley.
Yeah, let's hear from Horsley Witten first. Is that Janet?
That's Amy and Jen. I think Amy is probably ready to speak.
Okay. Would you just identify yourself for the record? Amy?
For the record, Amy Ball, Senior Associate with the Horsley Witten Group.
Can we get a little more volume on?
Sorry, turn that up. How's that? Is that better?
Can everybody hear?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
1 second, please.
Give it another
All
shot?
right, try one more.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. For the record, Amy Ball, Senior Associate from the Horsley Witten Group. I'll let Janet introduce herself.
And I'm Janet Bernardo, professional civil engineer with the Horsley Witten Group.
Thank you. Ms. Ball?
Okay, so Matt did a pretty good job. We had a conversation with him yesterday about our responses, and as he pointed out, we were not aware that the Royston Drive is actually private, so that may have changed, the way we would have answered some of the questions. I can speak to the first one fairly clearly, which is in terms of the riverfront area and the new proposed alteration with the riverfront area, because you're considering this under the redevelopment regulations under 1058.5, the applicant must meet those standards, and one of the standards is to not get any closer to the river than under existing conditions. And with the proposed rain garden, they are. And so they would need to consider the provisions under F and G, which is to provide some sort of mitigation. And in this case, they're proposing some plantings, but it's not at a minimum of 1-to-1 ratio as required in the regulations. So to that end, our recommendation would be if the commission were to consider this, that the applicant should consider supplementing the plantings and to maintain them in an unmaintained fashion, like not part of the proposed rain garden, but, allowed to grow naturally in this area to provide the habitat that is being lost. As for the stormwater practice and what is the best practice for this location and whether or not all alternatives have been considered, the applicant did provide a number of alternatives that were considered, including the no-build zone and the proposed practice, and then a couple of other practices in between. But there may be some additional considerations for resolving the flooding situation here. I'm going to let Janet take it from here because she's our stormwater engineer.
Again, my name is Janet Bernardo, and so we originally looked at this assuming that the road was a town road and that was not part of the project, so to speak, because it was an existing roadway. But then the proposed actual original design included constructing some buildings and putting in some relatively large stormwater infiltration chamber systems to manage the runoff from those buildings as well as the parking lots. That work has been under construction, and the management of the erosion controls has not really been up to par, and so therefore it's been a problem with sediment getting into the road, getting into the existing catch basins in the road, and allowing that to discharge into the river. So now they really need to show that they can manage that better. Part of their design is to take the existing catch basin, cut the pipe, and put that into a forebay, and take the paved waterway that's existing on the roadway and put that into a forebay as well, and that overtops into a rain garden, and that rain garden will somehow discharge back into the river. That means of discharge was a question in our last letter. But going back, so that design isn't so horrible if they were just trying to manage the runoff from that one catch basin. But reality is that they have a lot more runoff coming off the site and from the properties than they probably were anticipating or calculated for originally. And they should be looking at what they can do on the north side of the road to manage whatever is coming down those slopes, particularly because of the amount of sediment that it seems to be washing into the road. So putting in, either they could putting in some type of rain gardens on the north side along to manage the driveway aprons that they are not capturing with their proposed designs, and even during construction to put in erosion controls on the north side and sediment basins on the north side, so that runoff that seems to just be pooling into the roadway and causing a flooding issue is held on the north side of the road and not impacting those catch basins. And then the existing catch basin, a water quality unit of some sort can be added to that, and it was hard to tell if it's capturing the water that it should be capturing. Maybe there's water coming down the slope that under the overhead wires. It seems like the road is pitched towards the brook and not towards the catch basin system, which is a little confusing how that even got constructed in that way in the beginning. But really managing everything that's on the north side of the road, and then managing the road runoff separately would be a preferable design, particularly because of the amount of erosion that's going into the system right now. Was that confusing?
Can I, just really quickly?
Sure.
So, obviously, we have two things going on tonight on this property. Right now, we're talking about the request for amendment to OCs, and then later on, we do have it up for enforcement about the sedimentation and all of that. It's not that discussing it right now is out of line, but what we're looking at here is, and what was asked originally was, what is a long-term fix, right? And the case that I believe the applicant was making was that, well, once all these infiltration galleries are finished, then there won't be any issues down there. And that was part of what we were trying to kind of get out of this, was some confirmation of that. And I think that's somewhat hard to get. I think Janet would confirm that she said it appears, based on the calculations, like that could be the case, that once all these infiltration galleries, once the whole project is built out, there will be significantly less water coming down to the road. Question from the commission's standpoint, is that going to be enough, right? Are those systems all built for certain size storms that we're seeing these days that aren't freak accidents anymore? They're annual or a couple times a year. Are we still going to end up with situations where all the water is coming down the access driveways into the road, pooling in that same spot? When it pools in that spot, every vehicle that drives through, every truck from anybody who works at any of the businesses there, any vehicle drives through there, any of the oils, anything that's stuck to a vehicle now is getting washed out through the puddle back and forth. And then when that stuff runs off towards, when you have a situation where that rain garden will then get overtopped, then that stuff's not settling out of the system and getting into the ground, it's getting into the impoundments of Smellbrook. So I think that's what the commission wants to see out of whatever this is the best possible solution for this, rather than just trusting that, well, it'll probably be okay. Because at that point, then what does the commission do about it? Right, down the road, a couple years down the road, when everything is all done, and that's the new condition now, where you still have flooding there, you still have inputs of contaminants into the brook. Like, it's kind of hard at that point to prove, as the property owner is aware, because we've talked a lot about, different contamination issues in the area. It's really hard to pinpoint that stuff through enforcement, other than being there on the ground, seeing a plume come out into, or seeing the brown water getting into the water, and then seeing a plume in the water. So I think it's really important to get it right now.
And to your point, if I may,
Yes, please.
we had the NOI filing, we approved it, and that management approach has failed. I think because our responsibility is protection of the riverfront, which is a resource area, not a buffer zone, that it's incumbent upon us to have the best engineering approach put into place rather than hope for the best. So that's just my opinion.
Do we have anything else from the commission?
I share the opinion, but I guess where I'm a little bit turned around is I thought that I heard Janet say that there was additional steps that she was recommending. Not that just when everything was built, it might work enough.
Right.
So if I misheard it, I apologize, but I thought she was making recommendations along the north side, doing 4 bays, two of them. I don't remember this one well enough to say that I remember exactly what we had been discussing, as it's gonna be there anyways, but I think there was a disparage.
Right, so you didn't mishear that, but the part that required me to kind of preface a lot of that was that, like, essentially that's not what the peer review report said. And so when I first viewed the
I'm
updated
sorry.
peer
So we
review
need an
report,
updated peer review report.
I don't know if that's accurate or not. When we got the peer review report, I looked at it and my first questions were like, how or why?
Right.
Why are these results this way? I don't see support of that. And so I had questions of like, okay, how did you get to these answers? And were these types of things considered? And the answer was no. And the reason was, well, that's in the road. You figured you can't do anything in the road. So, well, that's not true. And the
Their
road is
road.
where some of these issues are, and it's a private road, so that should definitely be part of looking into all this. But no, you didn't hear that incorrectly, and it's been a different process. What was proposed in the first place, when I say the first place, what was proposed when we first got the request was not what was ultimately submitted for peer review. So it's already gotten a little bit better in that aspect. What was submitted in the first place was one rain garden on the south side of the road. By the time it went out to peer review, it was now 2. So now, additional calculations had been run, and it was determined they needed more storage space. So it has improved from what was first put in front of us. The question now is that the best feasible option? From what I can tell from everything that now has come out of peer review and discussion is not necessarily. I don't think we have a clear answer on that, because there are other things that could be done that would likely have a benefit on stormwater management on site, and that I don't think would be unreasonable.
No, and again, I don't think we're talking about the elephant in the room, which is staying out of the riverfront area.
The fact that if you have to do work in the riverfront area right there, I mean, we had a special condition that no other work will happen in
That's
the
right.
riverfront area without a filing, which we do have, and without good cause, right? And then with what Amy was talking about in terms of mitigation, because you're not supposed to get closer, and this would make it get closer, right? So I think if there are feasible alternatives that are further from the riverfront area, that's obviously, or further from the river, obviously the riverfront area on this site is large and was considered to be, or portions of it were considered to be previously degraded during the previous filing.
And that's why work was allowed there.
Right, but if there is something better that can occur there that will help with stormwater management over the long term, then the commission should want to see that. If what is proposed now is the 2 rain gardens is truly the best possible feasible solution there, then maybe that's it, and that's what the commission should approve.
But I think we just heard Janet say that that wasn't the case. I don't think that in what she said, and Janet, speak up please if I'm misquoting you, but I don't think she said that this is great, you're good to go. I think that she was indicating that there's more that could be done to stop this from occurring again, and then again and again and again.
It sounds
Janet,
like,
was that accurate?
Yeah, I do think that there can be more things done on the north side of the road to capture any runoff that's coming over the lawn areas and over the driveway aprons. It's a matter of capturing that runoff before it hits the road, and then cleaning any, providing water quality, which a rain garden will do for the water that goes into any catch basins that are in the road itself. But it would be, if there's a lot, I guess part of the confusion has been the amount of water that is ponding. We were on the site after a rainstorm. We definitely saw a large puddle. And so how much water is actually ponding and how much of the cars having to drive through that water, and what are they leaving on the road when they drive through a large puddle. So the goal would be to not have any puddles on the road at all, and not have, and provide water quality for any water that eventually will get into the brook. So that's managing whatever's coming off of the properties, which a lot of the water is being managed by the proposed designs, but they're not built yet, all of them. And then what's happening with that rest of it is something that the applicant can.
So is this
go
an
with.
open-ended question that we're just not gonna know the answer to? We're gonna see how it performs ultimately is
Well, really
where
quickly,
we're stuck.
and this is part of why I brought up what I brought after she spoke the first time, is that the first time Janet got into a little more discussion of the enforcement-related issue, which is the day that we had a lot of sediment in September coming off of the work area and pooling and getting in, pooling in the road and getting into Smelt Brook, I told the property owner, you need to contain, like, on-site in terms of where the work is happening, right? And so when Janet was talking about doing some work to keep that sediment from getting down there, that's enforcement related, that's permit compliance related. They have to do that anyways, and they have started that process with putting extra silt sock up there, and I've already told them, do whatever you can to stabilize open areas, keep that from coming down. But Janet did mention, and it's good to now have the clarification that those are things that could be added. There is room, there are other options there for getting more, where then you wouldn't likely have that, question about, is this enough, right? You're at least doing the best possible try at designing something that can take care of excess water.
So is this an engineering problem?
I think it's been an engineering problem
From the get-go.
the whole time. I'm not saying that to knock the engineers on the project. I'm saying that stormwater management is an engineering problem.
Okay,
So, yeah.
Let me ask you this. Does the applicant have a design in front of us that captures everything that we need, or do we need to ask for an update based on the results of the peer review?
Who are you asking?
That's a Janet question, not me. That's why we put it out to peer review.
Well, I don't think that
have no
she's
idea.
even seen, because you're saying that she's only seen it with one rain garden, correct?
No. When it was first submitted to the commission, there was one rain garden. And then
Has she seen the most recent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. What went in front of them for peer review, it was already an improvement on what was first submitted to the
Right.
commission. There were now rain gardens on both sides of the street. So that was what
But
I
it
meant by
sounds
that.
like there's still some more that the peer review is recommending, and I think that we
Yes.
need.
There's
the
more
applicant
that can
needs
be
some more
done.
Time
There's
to,
more that can be done.
now that they have some more information, take
Correct.
it back, draw it up, and then bring it back. I think that's the right path there.
And again, in
Just
keeping
mine.
with the whole idea of an alternatives analysis and other approaches, I think it's important to entertain this. Can we hear from?
Chair Vendetti, could I speak to the regulations? Because I think there's some confusion in intermixing of different regulatory concepts.
Would you please?
Thank you. So I think we're all in agreement that this is a previously developed riverfront area, at least this portion of the site, which is subject not to 1058-4 of the wetland regulations, 310 CMR 1058-4, which includes your alternatives analysis, but subject to 310 CMR 1058-5, which specifically deals with redevelopment. And in fact, your wetland regulations call that out in section 604, subsection 4, performance standards for redevelopment, where the proposed project involves redevelopment of a previously altered riverfront area to a perennial stream, then the criteria found in 310 CMR 1058-5 apply in lieu of the alternative analysis performance standards stating in the aforesaid subsection C 2C. That relates to new undeveloped riverfront area where you need to show, one, like there's no practicable alternative, and you have to meet the no adverse effect standard, which is a dimensional standard under section 1058-4. So I fully understand the commission's concerns regarding design alternatives, but because it's a redevelopment project, it's not subject to that alternatives analysis. And if you actually look at 1058-5, it actually gives you the specific criteria by which you evaluate previously developed areas. And I don't think there's any dispute. This portion of the site is all previously developed. It includes large areas of degraded areas, the roads degraded. In fact, my recollection is, and I was involved in this back in the day, those are all man-made structures and ponds and whatnot. We certainly have a protected stream. We certainly have riverfront area. I think this whole section of the site was previously developed and also degraded. So if you're dealing with redevelopment, then you look at subsection A. At a minimum, the proposed work shall result in an improvement over existing conditions. So I don't think there's any question that what we're proposing, the additional stormwater BMPs, are an improvement over existing conditions. We're trying to solve a problem. We have a time problem in that we think once the project is fully built out, we're not going to have this issue, but we're in the middle of this, and so we definitely have a temporary problem that needs to be addressed. Subsection B, stormwater management is provided according to standards established by the department. So I think that's the technical issue here and perhaps a dispute regarding the two consultants. Grady Consulting, our professional engineers, say that the design that we provided meets the stormwater standards. I think there's some suggestion by Horsley Witten that perhaps it doesn't. And so I think that's I'm not suggesting we can't talk about that. I think that's where we are. C, the proposed work shall not be located closer to the river than existing conditions. Again, we have previously developed riverfront area all the way down to the banks of these things. But let's assume we have and so I don't think we're proposing anything closer than existing conditions. But there's another section that says, except in accordance with 310 CMR 1058 F or G, which Ms. Ball indicated. That's the provision that says, well, if you provide mitigation, you can get closer than existing conditions. And so I think it's perfectly appropriate to be talking about mitigation. Our position is that we're actually not getting any closer because that's all previously developed under the regulations, but it's certainly appropriate to have a conversation if the commission wants to see additional mitigation.
Kalina, may I?
Yes, could we hear a question from the commissioner?
This is your process. I was just going to go through each of the...
Before you go to
Yes, sir.
Matt, have you received anything in writing from Mr. Brodsky so that we could review this before it comes to us in front at a meeting?
I don't think so.
No, I figured you had already reviewed the regulations when you were reviewing this previously.
If
I'm
you're
just reading you.
asking us
I'm
to-
just reading you the regulations.
The question was to Matt, so I'll
Yes, sir.
continue to speak. If you're going to present something as a challenge as to a legal defense of what you're doing and why we shouldn't be considering it, it should be put in front of us in writing before we get into a meeting, because when you come and you just start reading regulation to us, then there's no time for us to review it and to consider it. So
Yes, sir.
I'd ask you that if you're going to come in front of us again, you submit any kind of legal opinion to Matt so that we can have town council review that legal opinion before you come and try to kind of supersede what we understand as performance standards, right? So if we have a problem and we see something that needs to be done and we talk to peer review and they say, yes, in this case, I don't think it's adequate. And we say, oh, it looks like you need some more time to discuss it. Then I say, that's the path that we should be taking. If you want to come back and discuss it with legal references, then I think you need to start going by the rules that we have for the engineers, and you need to submit that to us so that we can fact check it and it's not just done in front of us. Because we can get spun around real easy here. I'm sure you can understand. We're volunteers. We need time to review. What seems very common to you is something that I like to review, so that if you misquote something, I want to know that you misquoted it, and I can't fact check you as we go. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
just-
my understanding.
No, I want to add something to that.
Go ahead, Marilyn.
Given
one?
that, excuse me, Dot.
Go ahead.
Given that we've gone through this process before, we had town council actually attend meetings when it started to get into some of this back and forth. I personally feel it's important to have town council on board since we're getting into more of this now. I don't feel comfortable without our own legal counsel.
And Dot?
When a project is under construction, there are rules about keeping the water under control and the sediment, et cetera. From the pictures that I saw, it is not under control. And so what you're saying may be true. Sorry, I don't know those regulations. And I think that something has to be done to protect the river now from the runoff and sediment. And it has nothing to do with those regulations.
And before you comment, there's been a very patient member of the public that I'd like to hear from right after you, Matt.
Yeah, I think that's all valid concern, and we can certainly do all of those things at the same rate if somebody wants to bring up references, maybe we didn't have a lot of time for review after getting the last peer review report. We can always take information and then continue. But ultimately, I think in a lot of what was just said, it's not necessarily about whether or not you know each one of those regulations in and out. It's interpretation. One person's going to interpret it one way, another person's going to interpret it differently. So whereas Mr. Brodsky or Rick might say this is all previously degraded and therefore there's no need for anything, we're not getting closer because it's already previously degraded, somebody else will look at it and say that's in a natural condition. The fact that 100 years ago somebody dammed up, and I'm obviously throwing that number out there, I have no idea the exact timeline of it, but that somebody dammed up that section of the river and changed the landform around it, you know, since then you have a lot more of a natural condition to that, and there certainly is no development proposed on that side of the river, or that side of the street, closer to the brook, rather.
And in fact, during that NOI process, I'm reviewing some notes that I had, it was an agreement to restrict all activity outside of that area.
Yes, and there was a special condition that says unless a variance, or excuse me,
Right,
unless
so
you
now
came
here
back
we-
in with an amendment, which is what this is. So I'm going to be quiet. I hear you loud and clear. I agree with Ms. McFarland. I'm not offering any opinions. I'm not offering any interpretations. I was a little bit surprised that I mean, these are the performance standards. These are the State Wetlands Protection Act performance standards for riverfront. I'd assumed that they had been reviewed. They've been actually addressed in part, well, actually addressed in our project narrative where they're actually spelled out. I'm repeating some of the information that's in the project narrative. They've been addressed by your peer review consultant. I was just providing clarity because we're talking about, for example, an alternatives analysis which is not relevant for this discussion. So all I was trying to do is and I'm literally reading the regulations. So I figured everyone had that all in front of them and had been addressed. So I'm not trying to make any legal arguments. With that said, would it be appropriate for Rick to actually address what I think is the technical issue here, which is, does what we're proposing meet the stormwater standards?
Can we just hear from Mr. Bois first, member of the public?
And again, I don't mean to interrupt. I mean, don't you want to hear from the applicant before you get public comment from people so we can complete our presentation? That would, I think, would only be fair.
All right.
You've already stated what you feel that you want to do. I would
Yeah,
say.
I want to hear what Mr. Bois has to say, and perhaps then there'd be even more that you can respond to, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
So shall I go?
Please go,
Madam
Pine.
Chair? Thanks so much, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes or take too much time or suggest that I have been following every nook and cranny of the advancing degradation of the site. But let me just say that I'm here for Smelt Brook. I believe that there's a lot of damage on this property that has evolved since it was a cranberry bog. Through the development of the industrial park, let's call it. And I would like to know who is the owner of the culvert under Marion Drive. And I just want to admit that I've been a little confused by who's talking about which road, whether we're talking about the Royston Drive so-called driveway or Marion Drive when we talk about some of the puddles.
Matt can probably answer that for you.
Yeah, everything we've talked about so far, unless anybody can correct me, is Royston Drive.
Okay, I was assuming that. But let's just remember that the regulations are there because we're trying to protect ecosystems. And the ecosystem of Smelt Brook runs from Smelt Pond all the way to the estuary of Jones River. And all of that has been manipulated over time, and there's a lot of us, both locally and in the state, that are trying to restore some of these areas because we're losing so much of our natural resources, especially the fish. So we know that the dam at Foundry Pond is no longer necessary, and we know that the culvert under Marion Drive is way too small. And we know that most of that site has been altered by cranberry agriculture production, and how the industrial evolution took place. I haven't been in touch with that. I don't know where those orders and permits were, but I do know that the Conservation Commission, as I know it, and I believe in all of the members there, would be interested in the restoration of the brook. So who is responsible for the culvert, and can we start talking about it as a living brook that needs to help Smelt Pond regain its health, because Smelt Pond also is degraded, as we know, and part of that reason is because it's lost its migrating fish population. So I think that there's a lot more to it. I appreciate everything that the peer reviewers had to say, although I don't have any plans in front of me, so it's a little difficult. But I think that there's a bigger thing here, and if we're talking about redevelopment, then talk about restoration, please. And let's put that on somebody that really wants to continue to alter a site that not that long ago in the life of the world was a productive fishery. So thanks very much, and I appreciate the time.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Bois. Would you like to come up, identify yourself for the record, please?
Thank you. Rick Grady from Grady Consulting. So the problem, as I understand it here, when we've been talking about this for quite some time now, a year and a half or so, I think, and I'm sure the Commission's getting tired of talking about it. The problem that was described to me was ponding and puddling on Royston Drive. There's an existing catch basin, and there's an existing paved swale. The paved swale discharges overland to Smelt Brook and the man-made pond in that area. The grade of that roadway there is approximately elevation 90. At the end of that, there's quite a bit of accumulated sediment. There's been erosion controls put in there over time. A combination of a lack of slope coming off that roadway, accumulated sediment, and the erosion controls created the puddle within Royston Drive. So what we're proposing is to lower that grade immediately adjacent to that paved swale from elevation 90 down to elevation 87 within a sediment forebay. The sooner we can lower that elevation, the sooner we can remove that puddling from Royston Drive. That's why our sediment forebay was very particularly designed in that location, so that we can drop that grade from elevation 90 down to elevation 87. Very simple science here. If we can lower that grade, we can get that water off of Royston Drive. Along with doing that, if we can introduce a rain garden in a previously disturbed area, we're going to promote infiltration. We're going to promote stormwater protection. We're going to add vegetation. We are proposing to expand on the passive naturalization area in an equivalent area to what we're disturbing for the rain garden. And again, as Mr. Brodsky had said, that our position is that this is a previously disturbed riverfront area, so we're not going any closer than previously existed. However, if we can get that water off of Royston Drive, a private driveway, we can fix the problem. And in doing that, we can also get additional infiltration, further protect the riverfront area. We have addressed numerous comments from Horsley Witten on the north side of the roadway. We did add a swale. We did add another rain garden. So those are going to further infiltrate. I do feel confident that had we had this infrastructure in place, then whatever discharges have occurred, I heard September, I think we would have captured any of that within these items.
Rick, without interrupting
Sure.
your flow, are you saying that you've taken some of what Horsley Witten had recommended and already incorporated into a new drawing?
Yes,
Or am I
yes.
misunderstanding?
The work on the north side of Royston Drive was not part of the initial submittal. We didn't feel it was necessary at the time. We did provide it try to come to a middle ground on something the commission could approve. So we did add the swale on the north side, we did add the additional infiltration on the north side. And I really feel that if we can lower that grade near that paved swale, we're not gonna have puddling in Royston Drive anymore. We're not gonna have vehicles going back and forth between the puddle. But we need to do it in order to fix that problem, and the longer we wait, the more the problem's going to persist. So we're just asking the commission to work with us on that, that's all. We think it is a good solution.
Can I,
Yes,
Just a-
one member of the public, when you're done.
just a little clarification, not conflating, again, the enforcement-related issues right now with long-term, but you're saying, and I heard the same thing from Larry on site the day of September 25th, where we had the big stormwater release there. You feel that if this system was installed, that all would have been contained?
I do.
That seems wild. I'm not an engineer. That was a lot of water coming off of that site. Like,
Having something there is substantially better than having nothing there. And-
better, yes, but
Yes.
to say that it would all be contained is I think highly unlikely, given how much water moved off that site. And again, I'm not trying to make a huge point on this, because I understand that a couple of, let's say, years down the road, you're gonna have multiple, pretty sizable infiltration systems installed up there.
And in fairness, I wasn't there on September 25th, so I'm unfortunately
Okay.
just hearing the story. I'm assuming that's when we got the 8 inches of rain during that storm event?
I'm not sure that was the 8-inch event.
That was the
earlier.
amount
That was July.
that hit Kingston during that storm, yes.
I'm not sure if that was 8, but.
I measured it myself, and the news also said
Right.
it.
What was it? You're saying that was the 8-inch?
Pardon?
I believe that was
8-inch, is that what
September
you're saying?
25th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question?
And obviously, there should be controlling off the current construction site too, which I imagine was the problem, and should have had some temporary controls in place up there as well. I'm not disputing that. I'm sorry.
The swale, you said the water from the swale goes into the river?
From the paved swale, it flows overland into the river, currently untreated, correct?
There is a pipe
The
from the,
pipe
from the
from
catch
the catch
basin, again, probably piping directly out into
Well, that's just
the
not.
brook
not
from
good.
whenever it was installed a long time ago. My understanding is that pipe is clogged up. And Horsley Witten's recommendation on this was to cut that pipe and leave it, cap it and leave
Cap
it in
it.
place, and have the water flow from the overflow of the rain garden across land into
Could
into the
the
brook.
swale be turned into a rain garden instead? Stop the flow into the river?
That's essentially
That's
essentially where it
proposing.
starts. That's, essentially the plan right now is to take the area that right now does have a little paved area there, that I could have sworn at one point I saw a catch basin on that side of the road that was all clogged up too, but it
It's just
doesn't
a-
show up on any plans or
Yeah,
anything.
it's just a
little
paved swale.
Paved extension of the road.
And we did bring Hoadley in at one point to clean the sediment out of the catch basin. We had them camera that 8-inch discharge pipe. It is clogged, it is broken, it's not working correctly. So really what's probably happening right now is it's going through that pipe to the broken part and then forcing its way out of the pipe and near the edge of the water. And I know Horsley Witten had suggested relocating the discharge to the area of the invasive olive tree, which we're proposing to remove. We're certainly willing to do that. We think it's a great idea. It'll shorten up our discharge length there too, where I thought it would be more amenable to utilize the previous location rather than relocating it, because I know that's always a sensitive topic, but we're certainly willing to relocate that to where the olive tree is, as suggested.
I'd have to get clarification from them, because my understanding on the latest was that, that they thought it was better to just let it spill overland from that location rather
So
than
we'd
to
have
relocate
the
a pipe.
overflow spillway out of the rain garden and let that go overland. That would be even better than a pipe, because that would allow us to discharge at a higher elevation.
May I please, before we hear more from the commission, may I hear from a member of the public identified as JC?
That's not a hand raised, that is the mouse. Sorry.
Very good, then, yeah, Jim.
All right. So Matt, how do we get to the point where I can feel confident that we've listened to our peer review and we've communicated it all appropriately, and we've received an update plan that we can feel confident addresses everything that our peer reviewer has indicated to move forward, so that we can move forward and let this all go behind us, because I think Rick will do a great job doing it once all the information is there. How do we make sure we're not dropping eggs?
Multiple ways. We could ask Horsley Witten Group to weigh in now with specific recommendations, which they may or may not be ready to do. We could ask Horsley Witten Group to update their plan with recommendation, or their report with recommendations, because there was an issue during the process of reviewing all of this.
I think we want it written down, Matt.
Of course we want it written down. It's just unfortunately, that's the way this went. We can take some time to review some of the stuff Attorney Brodsky brought up and see how much of that our council agrees with. But
If it's
as he said,
they're asking
they're
a
willing
challenge,
they're willing
bring it
to
Jay.
work
And if they're
on it.
not, because Rick is saying that he's already got most of it, Rick's a good engineer, I'm sure that if he says he's got it, he's got it, but I'd like to hear from, I can't do stormwater. I'm not the guy. I'm not trying to be. But if they say that you picked up the big pieces and there's something small, then we can debate the small thing. But if you guys are already close to it, we don't need to complicate it anymore.
I believe we're close.
So let's give you a little bit of time to nail it down, and if there's something that you absolutely can't do it, then tell us you can't do that part, and we're gonna have to make a decision. Or if you say that you checked off all of them, then it's awesome. That's all we want here, is to make sure that this doesn't become a problem, that is sustained beyond the project, and it's recurring every single time, because it rains 5, 6, 7 inches because we didn't do enough here. So let's put the smart people together and come up with the answer.
I think the one thing that I would request clarification on is whether the intent was relocating the discharge pipe, or whether it was to let it go overland out of the spillway, out of the rain garden. And I like the spillway idea better if that was the intent, but I just want to make sure that we're saying the same thing.
I mean, I can quickly speak to that and just say we never want discharge directly into a resource area, or we want discharge as far away from resource areas as we can get it.
Sure.
Unfortunately, in this situation, you're not left with much space regardless. So
Practicable
every foot
language,
of
right?
space of
Practical
overland potential infiltration is helpful.
Yeah. So we could come out of that swale, I'm sorry.
Janet?
I just want to, can I make one quick clarification? Our original letter suggested having a overflow weir with a V-notch to just allow water to rise in the rain garden and then flow overland. The applicant did not show that on their revised plan set, continued to have it go through the broken pipe. And so we said, we really don't like that idea. They should go back to at least having a discharge. So we kind of said two different things, but we really like the idea of an overflow spillway with a notch in it to have the lower flows, and then it could get higher, so it's designed that way. That was really the goal
Okay.
of the report.
Thank you.
So could I make a motion to continue this meeting? Rick, how much time do you think you guys need to get together?
A
You want
week.
The first in December?
Yeah, a week's plenty. Yeah.
Can I ask for a small clarification?
Sure.
In a week, are you coming back with the existing plan with just the change in that overflow? Or is the plan to try to take some of what was given from Horsley Witten Group tonight in discussion and see if there's something that can be done better to kick this home for the commission so they can have an easy yes on a request for amendment? Because taking some of what Attorney Brodsky said, along with the fact that this is an amendment request and all of the thresholds for that, right? Can you make it as easy as possible for them to say yes to this and we can put this behind us? Or is it you're coming back essentially with the same thing, so therefore we should look at some of the rest of the discussion that's been had tonight?
My nature is primarily a problem solver. I'm not real good at drawing up a lot of things that we're not going to build.
All right, well, here's my motion. Let's continue this until the first meeting in December, which was the 10th, I believe.
10th.
And we're gonna ask you to get in touch through Matt, however you guys do it, with Horsley Witten Group, come up with their recommendations and show us something that hopefully we can feel comfortable approving and moving forward on it. That would be my request for continuance.
That will fulfill that request for necessity for good cause.
I'm sorry, I
We use
don't
that
understand.
phrase, good cause, to change up that riverfront area. Because you've got that special condition that says no further activity there unless there's good cause. I need to feel comfortable with knowing you've demonstrated good cause.
Okay, I think the good cause is quite simply that we're solving the identified problem of ponding water within Royston Drive.
But we've looked at different alternatives, forgive the use of the word alternative, and now listening to Janet, I really want to see those things incorporated.
Okay.
Can I make one other
I'm
comment?
not sure we'll ever satisfy that, quite honestly, but we'll do our
Well,
best.
then take your best shot.
Janet, can we hear from you? Yeah, one last thing?
I just have one other thing. The plan that was most recently reviewed has kind of a big square in the middle that says that these other areas were dealt with the order of conditions. And so I didn't go back again. I did the first time, but I didn't go back this second time and look at those catchment areas. But going back this week, I realized that the grading, the topography, the proposed topography on the south side of each of the buildings means that the grass and the lawn area south of the buildings goes into the road. So, but that is not what's shown on this plan. The plan shows that those grass areas are caught in the original order of conditions. I just want Rick Grady to understand that this catchment area that is shown on this plan does not match the order of conditions and the original notice of intent with the lawns. They are now directly sheet flowing onto the road, and they should be caught before it gets onto the road or included in the calculation.
Does that make sense?
So I'm a little bit confused. We have a valid order of conditions that was approved by the Conservation Commission.
This plan
Are we
doesn't
going
match
back
that
to?
plan.
I'm sorry. Are we going
This
back to
plan
the?
doesn't match. They don't match.
She's just saying
There's a
that
discrepancy
there's
in the
information on
plans
there
from
that it
what
says
exists.
that this is all covered by that, but she's saying that it doesn't match what's being shown now as the catch. Essentially, is this where you're saying
Are we
where
talking about
there's?
the calculation of the watershed area? I need clarification. please.
Matt,
Yeah, I think it was about the lawn area in this version is shown as not being part of the catchment area, right? We can call it where that is part of the area that drains down to that particular area, where physically it does, right? Physically, all of that area slopes down towards the road. So where you have very minor storms, I'm sure it all infiltrates, but on larger storms it won't, and that's gonna run down. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Janet, is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, and so the catchment area that's shown on this plan is not the same as the catchment area that was shown on the notice, the original notice of intent. So it just should be corrected with any new submissions. And make sure that it's all, what wasn't originally included in the buildings and the chambers and for the parking lots is actually shown going onto the road. So it's caught. It's caught in whatever the design is. All those areas should be caught.
Double check on that. If you have any questions about clarification on that, shoot me an email and we can coordinate all that.
I understand the question.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have?
I have a question and clarification though. Are we asking the peer review to submit an updated version, or are we just using the notes from today's discussion to guide Rick and his
No, we
stuff
want
forward?
it, we want it written.
We want it, so we're asking the peer review to do an updated plan. Is that the motion?
That's not the motion.
It's not part of the motion. The motion is continued to
Okay.
allow them to do that, but Matt said that we need that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so the motion is to continue this matter to December 10th.
I'll second.
Motion is seconded. I'm going to take a vote on that. Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed to that? All right, that motion carries. So we'll see you on the 10th of December.
Thank you.
Thank you
And,
both very much.
Just
All right.
for clarification, we're going to discuss this property in the enforcement section after the hearings.
All right, have a seat. Going to move on to section D?
Yeah.
Okay. We're moving on to section D. This involves 127 Wapping Road. You find that on map 52, lot 5. This is a notice of intent matter. I open a hearing for the notice of intent for the proposed demolition of a single-family house and cesspools and construction of a new single-family house with a septic system, retaining walls, site grading, and paving within the 100-foot buffer to a bordering vegetated wetland and the 200-foot riverfront area to a perennial stream at 127 Wapping Road. We could hear a briefing from you, Matt, if you're ready.
Matt, before you
yes?
start, I don't know the folks who live across, who are going to change their house across the street, but it is directly across the street from my sister's house. She has talked with them, and so I'm aware of a lot that's going on. I don't know if I should recuse myself or not.
I don't think so.
Do you feel that there's any reason that anything you've heard would change your mind on making decisions, or do you?
Probably not, no.
Yeah, if you don't have any, like, financial stake or direct
Personally,
family
no. Right.
tie to the
And
project,
you're not
I
a
would say no.
direct abutter. so
No.
I think you're
you have every
okay.
right to-
Okay, I just want you to know that.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing it up, though, Matt, Dot. All right, so
I
let's
think
hear
it's a
your
new
briefing,
one, so I
Matt.
think we would let Pat give a presentation first.
Okay, great, thank you. Please identify yourself
Yep,
for the record.
Pat Brennan with PGB Engineering. Excuse me, I'm here on behalf of David Gassie. He's the applicant for this project. I don't know if you want to put it on the
sorry.
screen, or,
Long meeting.
I do have a board. but I
No,
don't
you're
think
good.
you'll see
I'll
it.
pull it up on the screen. If you want to get started, I'll.
So this
take it.
is a 22-acre parcel. There's an existing house, garage, shed, and a bunch of debris on the parcel. There are wetlands. As you come into the parcel off of Wapping Road, there's wetlands on both sides of the property. There's a perennial stream on the left-hand side as you come in, which is the west side of the property. Wapping Road is on the south. The proposal is to raise the existing house and construct a new house in its place. The existing house is a 3-bedroom. The proposed house is a 3-bedroom. When we went out to do perk tests for the septic system, groundwater was very high out there. It was about 28 inches down in the 2 test holes that we did, which means there's 2 cesspools now in the house. So right now, the cesspools are actually in the water table. The basement of the house is constantly filled with water. So the new house will be placed, the floor of the basement, and it's a garage under, will be placed at least 2 feet above groundwater, so it'll be almost at existing grade. So in order to do that, we need to do some filling. We also need to do some filling in the front portion. Can you still hear me?
No, you need, there is a portable one we can get if you want to.
I can just,
I can guide with the mouse, if everybody can see the mouse.
will a laser pointer work?
Sure,
I
I
do.
think so. Nice, a laser pointer. I got one of those in one. I like it.
All right. Okay, so this is the existing house here. Okay, it goes like this, and it goes back like this. So right here, it's just about 12 feet off the wetland, right in this back corner. The proposal is to get rid of that house, and then this rectangle is the foundation of the new home. We're moving it 20 feet further away from the wetland. But as you can see, there's wetlands over on this side of the property here, and they come out like this over on this side as well. So we have a pinch point in the middle out here. So everything that we're doing is within buffer zone. There's also a perennial stream over here. This is the 100-foot riverfront area. We're staying out of that. This is the 200-foot riverfront area. So we're in that outer riparian zone. Septic system is going to go in the front yard. The existing, there's one cesspool in this location. The other cesspool is in this location. The proposed septic system's going out here. We're keeping it a minimum of 50 feet off of the wetlands. We kind of center it on the lot in between the two wetlands here. Because of the groundwater issue, we have to actually raise that septic system to get the separation we need from groundwater. So there is some filling out here. To reduce the filling, we're proposing a retaining wall off of this corner of the house and then off this back corner of the house and fill around there so that we're reducing the fill around the backside, getting close to the wetlands on the backside of the home. The septic system is a geomat system. It's an alternative system that provides better treatment than a conventional septic system. With the geomat system, you're allowed to reduce your separation of groundwater. You're allowed to put it within 5 feet of the foundation of a home. So there's benefits. It's basically a sand filter. It sits in C33 sand. So it's a system that works on this site. Like I said, by Title V, the existing house is a 3-bedroom. This is a 3-bedroom. So we did submit to the Board of Health. We got approval for this as being a repair system because it's replacing it's 3 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, so no additional flow according to Title V. There are 2 trees, large trees out here and here. Apparently they're linden trees. We did submit a report, I think just yesterday or the day before. There is substantial decay in both of those trees, so the intent is to remove those 2 trees as part of the project. When we did the site walk last week, the garage it's still standing. Obviously, it needs to be repaired. So Matt had suggested that if that's going to be, that's not, in the proposal right now, but we did include it. We updated the narrative to include the garage, mainly because if it's going to be done in the next 3 to 5 years, we want to include it under this filing. But right now, he's just looking to do the house. Part of it, the existing driveway comes out like this. It actually goes up to within a couple feet of the wetland here. It's a garage under from the back, so where the portion of the house is coming out, we'd like to pave this area so that we have a connection from the driveway into the garage under. There are some variances we need from the KWPR. One of them is for that driveway. Within the 30-foot buffer. The 30-foot buffer is right here. So a portion of that driveway is in the 30-foot buffer. The second is one of the piers for this deck on the back is within the 40-foot buffer. And the third is that the dwelling itself, the foundation wall, and a portion of this retaining wall where it retains over 4 feet is within the 50-foot buffer. The retaining wall is actually right on it's actually replacing the existing back foundation wall of that portion of the home. And then the foundation wall, again, it's further away from the wetland than the existing house. So one of the variances is about 5 feet of the retaining wall in this location, and then the foundation in this location here. Moving it forward is going to push us into setbacks over here or over here. So wherever we move it, we're going into those setbacks. And we also wanted to kind of put it in the location of the existing dwelling, so we're really not changing too much on the property. We have our erosion controls here and here, silt sock. This is our stockpile area. And I think that's it for now. I'd answer any questions that you may have, but I'm sure Matt has his comments that he'd like to say.
Just, I guess, big picture before I get into the talking a lot about just all the detail. Obviously, 4 variances. Septics, I think we're seeing a lot of septic issues coming up with all the ADU stuff and everything like that, and KWPR is pretty restrictive on septic systems. On this one, they make the case that, you know, according to Title V, that's an existing system and that this is a replacement. Some commissioners may feel otherwise, and I know we've dealt with before conversion from cesspool to a new construction. Not the easiest thing for the commission to approve. No mitigation shown. So I'll run through everything, but essentially the commission can kind of handle it as they see fit if they want to give them another chance to come back and provide a more compelling case that they've done the best that they can for the need for the commission to issue the variances. If the commission wants to say no, there's appeal processes for all that stuff. I would say on a project like this, this would be one of the ones that you'd be approving under the WPA and denying it under the local. And they would then have to, if they felt like it, take it to court, you know, and see if they could get a judge to overturn that. So I'll go through everything, and then if you have any questions, let me know. One of the, I think, more important things, we did not confirm the wetland lines. I had some questions in the field, and the way I typically do that, rather than just start poking holes all over the property, is to coordinate a visit with the wetland scientist, and we weren't able to coordinate a time before this meeting. So we're going to try to get out there as soon as we can to just make sure that, you know, it's really tough confirming wetland lines in the absence of vegetation. Obviously, the property's been developed for a long time. There are fields and up against wetlands, and those can be pretty tricky with the soils and everything like that. So I do want to get out there and do that. You can get away with an RDA or some, you know, certain properties not confirming wetland lines. You could get away with stating that certain ones aren't confirmed, but for an NOI, obviously, we should have confirmed wetland lines for this. So, so I think no matter what, we would have to continue for that. The other thing about wetlands, the application says there are no vernal pools on site, but there are 2 potential vernal pools that look like they're on the northwestern and northeastern property lines. They're outside of the site plan extents, so in there, I believe their 200-foot areas are well out of this as well. But the applicant should be aware of that each one of those has a 200-foot jurisdictional area and protected area from mean high water under KWPR. They are referenced in the plan notes, so it's not that it was completely unaware, but I believe it did say in the application that there were none on site, probably meaning on site for the actual site plan, not the property itself. The 2 trees are substantial. I made the point during the site visit that they may be historic, not that I think there's any real regulation component to that, just kind of adds to the cool factor of trees, but they are clearly impacted by decay and structural issues. Still, when we were there, I pointed out there were parts that appeared to be actively growing and trying to cover over and heal around that, so we recommended having a certified arborist take a look and provide a letter, which they did provide a letter saying that they're both, you know, in a bad way, and they would be problematic for, you know, you putting a septic system within a certain distance of those trees, then, you know, they may fall over and cause property damage. Just to point out, the proposal, the updated proposal said that the only jurisdictional portion of the garage work is clearing vegetation around the back of the building to make room for the work. For reference, the garage is about 20 feet from the bank of a perennial stream and roughly 10 feet from the edge of BVW. I don't have any evidence that the original structure was legally permitted or that it predates the Wetlands Protection Act. I believe, was it, you might have emailed me today on
Yeah.
I got an
sent
email
it.
of a 1971 picture, maybe.
Yes.
I have not reviewed that yet.
Yep.
If that is, obviously that helps. But our guidance from town council has been essentially that there's no such thing as grandfathering in wetlands law. And also with, a case particularly like this, that even building on the existing foundation or even the demolition of the existing structure on there are both jurisdictional activities. They're activities that the commission would likely have a higher likelihood of determining that they're not going to be impactful to the wetlands based on lack of ground disturbance. So rather than have somebody rebuild that garage nearby in a similar distance to wetlands and have to disturb the ground, it would obviously be more beneficial just to rebuild it in place on the existing foundation, but it's all jurisdictional. For that, the applicant would have to show that this was the least impactful location due to the pre-existing foundation, because it's much closer than what's allowed in KWPR. You'd have a 50-foot setback for a garage structure like that. One of the things that I didn't get at in the site visit that I then, through thinking about things like this, thought of when I got back to the office was, this property's been developed for a long time. There are portions of it that were probably in agricultural use. There's fields, things like that. When we were on the site visit looking at the wetlands that are on the right side of the plan here, in between the house and the wetlands, looked like it had been recently tilled. And I remember that agricultural exemptions only exist for land actively farmed, and there's a 5-year time period on that, and it's actually related to commercial agriculture as well. So I believe from talking to the applicant that there hasn't been anybody living in that house for, I think, 10 years or so, or at least 10 years. But anyways, it has the appearance that longer than 5 years has passed if there was a commercial use there. So the reason for bringing that up would be that essentially any land on this property that's in jurisdiction, which is a lot because you have 2 streams that come through. There's another stream that comes through sort of the back part of the property on the other side, and all of the BVW. You have 200 feet from any stream, 200 feet from mean high water on vernal pools, and then 100 from BVW would all be jurisdictional, and any modification to those should have some form of permitting or approval from the commission. And I did sort of hint at when we were there, and the application points out that the new homeowner has been cleaning the site up. But part of cleaning the site up, I pointed out, like, there are trees that have been taken down, probably trees that were things that just popped up in the middle of fields around junk. So I get it all, but it's important to point out that, any jurisdictional area on this property has protection from WPA and KWPR. So somebody who may want to buy this property, live there, and make use of the fields, things like that, for some form of an agricultural use or even a residential use, those things should be permitted, that the commission has the ability to make sure that the wetlands are protected. You already mentioned they requested multiple variances. You detailed which ones they were. It's my take that the garage also would be a variance based on proximity to BVW and stream. The applicant claims no increase in septic flow rate due to existing and proposed houses having 3 bedrooms, and that this is considered a repair or a replacement under Title V. One second. I wrote that, like he pointed out, the current septic system consists of 2 cesspools, around 30 or 40 feet from BVW and in a groundwater saturated area, while the proposed septic system uses geomat and increased elevation to reduce the impact to groundwater. I wrote, from a practical standpoint, the property has had very little use over the years, if not decades. So it is tricky to say that there would be no increase in flow here from a practical standpoint, not strictly talking Title V, but from the commission's standpoint in terms of effects to wetland resource areas. It's likely that use will significantly be increased over whatever the peak use had been, including when you consider things like gray water, right? The house that's there was built in some form of the 1700s. I don't know what was in there for, I don't know, you had dishwashers, washing machines, things like that. New house more than likely has all of those things. We use a lot of water in those types of systems. Proposed system, they claim meets Title V. I believe it was signed off by the health agent, but neither of those are directly relevant to KWPR's performance standards based on septic systems. If this commission actually does constitute an increase in flow, then the commission would be within their right to deny the project under 10.02B1 and 3 under KWPR. Whether or not conversion from cesspool to septic system during house reconstruction or addition constitutes increased flow has come up in earlier hearings. Often it's resulted in the applicant proposing alternative technology, treatment tanks to mitigate bacteria and pollutants like nitrogen and phosphorus. The applicant has already proposed a geomat leaching system, but that's due to the high groundwater in the test pits. So its intent is to mitigate the high groundwater, not its proximity to wetlands and a perennial stream. The proposed leaching field is in the outer extents of the 200-foot riverfront area, but the topography does seem conducive to runoff from this spot towards the stream if there are any system issues, especially since the field will be elevated over existing conditions based on the fill that he was discussing. From KWPR 9.01, the Conservation Commission may require a 100-foot no disturbance zone as a minimum protection measure adjacent to the following sensitive wetland resource areas. Perennial streams. In addition, a 100-foot no disturbance zone adjacent to wetland resource areas is required for new septic system installations in accordance with the project-specific performance standards, section 10.02. Again, it's unclear to me whether this constitutes a new septic system or a replacement. Recommendations. The applicant may request a continuance to add any proposed agricultural or other property uses to this NOI, as though that area has or had and continues to have extensive signs of historic use, including many dumped vehicles, tires, and materials. As far as I can tell, the area is in a natural condition as far as the WPA and KWPR are concerned and should not be modified without a permit. They already have in some capacity, as described in the findings above, and the description of trying to clean the site up. We already got a certified arborist letter. The commission may request information and continue the public hearing. As I've stated, we don't have a consensus on wetland delineation anyways, or close the hearing and issue OOCs either approving or denying the proposal. That any denial should be under KWPR only, with approval under WPA only. I don't recommend that at this point. I would recommend the more information version of this on both sides. But as I said before, the applicant's shown a proposal that improves the property from an assessing and community standpoint, but it is a tricky project to permit under the wetlands regulations, particularly the local. The existing house is only 12.4 feet from BVW. The proposed is 32.4 feet away, so it is further. The current septic system does put the system further away from the resource areas and elevate and create a better system than a cesspool that's in groundwater. But again, those systems aren't being used. They're not something I don't think you could start using today. So applicant requested 4 variances of KWPR performance standards, may need 1 or more others, but has provided no mitigation. Requests discuss benefits such as moving structures landward and removing the basement and cesspools from the groundwater. But again, the property's been in an unusable condition, been vacant for a long time. If the commission feels that the variances are worthwhile, they may choose to approve the project through issuance of OOCs, but typically mitigation is offered in these situations where variances will be needed to approve projects. I'm done talking.
Can I address a couple of things there?
Yes, please, Dot.
The house has been in agriculture for many, many years. Back in the 50s and 60s, it was a chicken farm, and vegetables, et cetera, were grown and sold in a little stand. The house was occupied by a man and his wife until, I'm not sure exactly, about 3.5 years ago, the man died. They used to sell vegetables too, but quite a long time ago. He was disabled, and he couldn't garden anymore. The house is a hoarder's house. There's no question. I mean, my sister.
It is a what?
A hoarder's house. My sister's been in there, and she knew the people who lived there. So the woman died, again, I'm not sure, about like 2.5 years ago. So it's been empty probably 3 years or something like that. And it's damaged, it's in terrible shape. It's been struck by trees, et cetera, going down. The other thing is those big trees out front, are they white? Are the trunks white with kind of black spots sort of on them?
They're basswood trees.
Pardon?
Basswood, linden trees,
Oh,
tilia.
the bass, okay,
Yeah.
then they're not what he said.
Yeah. And they do have large hole, you can see right through the trunk on one of them. They do have significant damage.
Yeah. Oh, I see, yeah. Okay, yeah, I did see that picture. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
All right, so I have some concerns with this one, specific to the septic, all right? This is a raise and rebuild in a different location. This is a new house for the new septic. The cesspools had failed prior to, documented through the P&S agreement that they provided. The buyer accepted responsibility for the failed septics.
Right.
It's on the last page, right? So this isn't something that's a typical, a 30-year member of the community has to replace their septic. They're keeping their same house, it's a repair. This is a new construction project
Right.
on an existing developed site.
The house is unlivable as it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I think it's important to understand that when somebody says this is alternative technology, this is a alternative leaching field technology. This is not the type of technology that takes bacteria, nitrogen out of the effluent discharge at the end of the pipe. So we should have serious concerns with approving any kind of septic system in this location within the 100-foot buffer without getting something that makes us feel that we're not contributing to an increased load
Yeah.
going into it, right? So we got downgrade, there's concern about breakout as you go down gradient. There's only, I think per the soil logs, it was only 20 inches before they got to saturated soils. So this is a real concern to the resource area on the septic side of it. And I can't get past that. I'm gonna need something that, there's no way I'm voting for this.
Okay.
Can I understand the setbacks and where the existing buildings are? And yeah, I can, we give a lot of leniency on that stuff. But when it comes down to, at the end of the day, can we grant a variance? We can, but only if there's no increased impact to the resource area. That's the rules that we have to live by. So in that case, that's my main concern. I wanted, otherwise, I'm not opposed to seeing this redeveloped. I gotta go on the record that the septic is a non-starter for me, so. So there's, basically, a true alternative technology is something that cleans the water, removes the nitrates, the bacteria
Yeah,
before it
makes
comes
sense.
out the end of the pipe, and then it goes into a leaching field from there.
Right.
But it's not the SAS that we would typically see. And there's other alternatives too. They could, if there's other places on site that's outside of jurisdiction area, they can put it in a tank and pump into a remote location. They do that all the time. So there are alternatives if they don't want to go that direction, but what we see here, I don't think is something that we can permit.
Okay.
So I would lean towards giving them more time to see if they can come back with something that we can approve.
Okay, anything else? Well, see if we can have a motion to continue this.
Can I ask how much time, Matt,
How much time?
you guys would like?
You guys.
I mean, I'll talk with the owner, but we can go for the 26th. We can get on the next one. I can get stuff in right away. Whatever's requested.
Okay. Just know that it has to be here a little early, so that,
Yep.
especially, that's the day before Thanksgiving, so Matt, what's our guidance?
For
At least a
continuance,
week,
1
right?
week. So if you can get something to me in a week, we can keep it on the 26th. If it's too close to 26th, then it'll get pushed to December 10th.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to continue this to November 26th with a request for any updated information, minimum of 7 days prior to that.
Did you get that? Okay.
I'll second it, just.
All right, we have a motion to continue this to the 26th with the condition that any updates are received 7 days prior. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, so we will see you then. Good luck. that it?
No,
We have all sorts of other stuff we gotta do.
127, yeah, so now we gotta do enforcements.
Right.
Let me just take 2 minutes.
All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break. If anybody needs to stretch their legs, please do.
What do you got?
How are you?
I just want lots of change.
Back on the record, and we're moving to the matters of enforcement. The first is 44 Raboth Road. This has been continued from an earlier date. Matt?
Yes. Just give me 1 second to get into
Yep,
that folder.
certainly.
The commission, last time we discussed this, asked me to issue an enforcement order, which we did, and it mandated that they had until today to provide a stamped signed letter from a state-certified professional engineer on letterhead certifying that the plan as-built retaining wall 44 Rabbith Road is a true as-built plan and that it was inspected in the field and drawn as it was constructed rather than drawn to the recommended specs of the block manufacturer. A signed stamped copy of the plan must be provided in conjunction with the letter. 2, provide a stamped signed letter from a state-certified professional engineer on letterhead certifying that the existing retaining wall was built to the recommended specifications of the block manufacturer. 3, provide a signed stamped plot plan showing the location of the wall and concrete parking area. I did get an email today from Jenna with those things. I can pull up now. On the first one, I'm not sure that in the letter he actually said that the as-built plan was a true as-built and all of that, but there is a lot of detail in the letter that I believe means roughly the same thing. I can follow up with the engineer directly. I do have an email address and phone number for them. So I can pull up what we have. In some cases, I think the commission may want to continue something like this so that we can have more time to review everything. But we can also get in and talk about it now because it was requested by the state. So why don't I run through?
We've received it?
Yes, we
Do you
received
want
today.
to, I mean,
I
it's
figured,
late,
why don't we
too.
quickly run through it, and if you want to continue from there before you make a decision on anything, that's fine. But this is what was provided for, I'm not sharing my screen. Here we are. Let's see if this works. There we go. So here's the pond right here. The hashed blue line is the approximate limit of the pond observed in the field. Orange is the extent of the flood zone that would make that bordering land subject to flooding. So technically, this is where your buffer zone starts, which is I think not a great thing for the property owner. This right here, this funky shape is the retaining wall in question. I do have the as-built plan in the letter off to the side. Here you see a concrete driveway that was put in. That's essentially what the wall was holding back. There is a area here that's kind of sparsely vegetated. I don't know if it was all grass or there might have been like a garden or something, but essentially this was all to hold back this concrete area. Only a portion of this is on the subject property. The rest of it is on property owned by the DeRicos. So from a impervious surface standpoint, and we haven't talked about that yet on this property because they haven't filed anything yet, but 15% is the cutoff. The good thing for them is a portion of this, or a big portion of this impervious surface is not on their property. So the way the regs are written, that part doesn't count. It's kind of invisible. These sheds are also not on the property. Those wouldn't count. So you'd only count what was in here. The downside is that it is going to be awfully high between the building and the driveway. It's my guess would be it is significantly over 15%. The wall itself, we had already discussed, is within the 50-foot in KWPR for any retaining wall over 4 feet. The wall is significantly higher than 4 feet, and that, I thought I estimated at about 30 feet, but that was based off the edge of the pond, not the edge of the bordering land subject to flooding. So we already had covered that it didn't meet that standard of KWPR. The thing the commission wanted to know in advance of even telling them that they should file to have this permitted in retro is, would it be permittable at all from a building standpoint, and is it structurally sound? Was it built the way it was supposed to be built, and that sort of thing. That looks like the exact same thing. Not working. Great. Here is the as-built plan that came with or specifically from the structural engineer on the retaining wall. I believe this is the rough outline of the house. This is the outline and measurements of the wall. Still not a lot of detail to that. Yeah, it is stamped and signed. It does say as built, but again, all of the contractor notes treat this as though it's a permitting plan. So I can follow up with the engineer, but they did provide a letter. As requested, I visited the above address on July 28th to measure and inspect the existing retaining wall. Specifies the brand and model of the units and the size of each unit. Wall height varies from approximately 3 feet to 8 feet. It says, please refer to the as-built retaining wall plan attached separately. During the inspection, it was observed that some of the blocks had shifted and the wall was leaning toward the lake. It is assumed that the movement was caused by a lack of proper drainage and the absence of geogrid reinforcement. According to the retaining wall specs, manufacturer's specs, geogrid should be installed between each course of blocks. Please refer to the manufacturer's sketch provided below. Weep holes and a perforated PVC drain pipe should also be installed behind the wall to prevent water accumulation. I recommend temporarily removing the existing blocks, then installing proper geogrid reinforcement and a drainage system with perforated pipe and crushed stone per the manufacturer's recommendations. After installation, the blocks should be reset in their original alignment. Please call with any questions. So, what the commission knows now at this point is that that the wall is leaning toward the lake, which is not ideal, and B, that it does not appear to have been built to the manufacturer's specs. So I think if the commission had had a different answer than that, you may be tempted to tell the applicant, why don't you see if you can apply for a permit? See if you can get this permitted in retro from the Conservation Commission with any mitigation that you may need to get over the fact that it's within 50 feet of wetland resource areas and the pond. Knowing that it has to be disassembled and reassembled as it is, I would doubt the commission would take that standpoint, and you'd want to see anything that was submitted to the commission meet the standards. And you may have to tier that and make sure that each section of it is lower than 4 feet. So I think at this point what the commission should want to see is the property come into compliance, and the things that are standing out in my head right now, and correct me if there's anything else that I'm forgetting, is the retaining wall, the paved area at the top where the retaining wall is holding back, the dock that was within the last handful of years significantly increased in size, which from basic measurements on aerials is bigger than KWPR would allow, and related to the pavement at the top of the slope, and I suppose the wall itself, the drainage in that area. You know, you have the situation where we were told that that was built in order to direct the drainage away from the pond, and now we have the abutter that just built the house at 46 Rabbith Road, where I told him that he has a drainage issue that he needs to deal with before he'll get a COC, is claiming that the runoff is coming from this property, after this property owner essentially said that they did that in order to divert drainage. So that's what I see being the big issues here that should be wrapped up one way or the other. If the commission wants to take some time to absorb all of this and have me put together recommendations on it, you know, that might be the best way to go forward.
I think that's advisable.
I mean, the wall's already leaning towards, I mean, it could be water, you know, and soil pressure, you know, turkey pressure in the soil, but it could also be uncompacted fill underneath it, and maybe there's not a sufficient footing for the height of the wall. I don't see anything in the engineer's, you know, data that shows that he excavated to tell what it is. So this, what I see at face value is that this is not a conforming wall, and this is something that, you know, we should treat as something that can't stay, and we're gonna have to figure out what the best path forward on it is. But I think it needs to be an NOI moving forward. If they wanna keep this here, they're gonna have to do it right, from scratch, and that's gonna be expensive, and it's unfortunate that that's the case, but the wall's already fallen over and it wasn't built right, so I was hoping that wouldn't be the case, but.
As I remember, it was fairly new, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's only like
Looks
a
it.
year and a half or something, right?
Off the top of my head, I want to say roughly 2021.
Yeah.
Oh,
so-
really?
Yeah. I could look at the timeline, but right now it's
I don't
not
recall what he said.
super relevant.
But continuing, yeah.
How long have the homeowners had this information? How long has the homeowners had this information, the inspection about the wall? Did
Stuff
they
we just looked at?
Yeah, did they just get it today too?
Likely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
did, I checked in last week.
I think a
just to
continuation
say,
is
hey,
necessary.
the deadline's coming up, is there anything, you know, that you need? And she said she was just waiting on one of the remaining components.
So they're gonna need a continuation
Yeah.
for them to think about what they wanna do, so.
I think I would recommend we push this to November 26th, and I'll put together a recommendation for the commission.
You want a
Do
motion
you need a
on
vote?
that? Do we need a vote?
Might as well.
All right, then there's a recommendation that we move this forward to November 26th. We have a motion
I'll
there.
make that motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We're going to move that to November 26th. Thank you all. Moving on to 20 Marion Drive, Royston Drive. Matt?
Yes. So I'm just gonna pull up.
Is this in the same folder under?
No, I think that's
Under
in,
enforcement.
It's got an
there's
enforcement
a,
folder.
oh wait, is it?
It is, yeah, it is an enforcement folder in it.
I'm not seeing it for some reason. Oh, there's an enforcement subfolder, yeah. Sorry, I thought I put it in there separately.
No, it's inside the NOI file, the RAOC file folder.
All right, September
Request amendment.
September 25th, was out doing rainy day compliance checks with my intern, and we went to the subject property as part of the stuff that day. We went after the first group of storms, and there was a lull, and I drove through. There was flooding on Royston Drive, but it was not brown, which was good. And I noticed as I was driving through that the lower impoundment, there's two impoundments of Smelt Brook on the site, right? There's the one that's right behind the area we were talking about during the amendment discussion, and then further downstream, right where you first pull onto Royston from Marion, there's a second impoundment. I noticed a real cloudy condition in that lower impoundment. I stopped, I got out, I looked around, I couldn't see any real reason for it. I went up and down Marion Drive. I went down to the edge of the water, looking around, seeing if there was a stormwater output from Marion Drive, trying to figure out if it was coming from elsewhere. Couldn't come up with a good explanation, so I came back later. And when I came back later, it was in the rain, and there was a big brown puddle in the road, and the owner of the property was there at the time, and we talked about it all, and I documented water going past the erosion control, brown water going into the upper impoundment, and the little plume from that. I documented the sediment coming off the active work area, because essentially that day they had two machines pushing dirt around on site. They had piles there, piles weren't covered, nothing to stabilize the area, the work area, which was, upslope of the road, or I think north of the road. I should clarify, because Larry, the owner of the property, was very adamant that that my photos of the downstream impoundment were deceiving because none of that came from his site. And I said, I'm not saying that it came from your site. It made me think that there may have been an issue there. It's what made me come back later in the day, and I don't know that it didn't. I said what was there was bad enough from the work site and the upper impoundment, but I don't have any evidence. So if any of those photos of the lower impoundment made anybody feel like this was somehow worse, I don't know what that is from. Larry has somebody who works for a different environmental company who supposedly said that they thought it was all biological in origin from eutrophication, and that may well be true. My take on that is that his site has likely added to eutrophication in that system. Maybe just not on that particular day, or maybe, I'm not out at that site all the time. I'm not a hawk on this site. Like, I'm not driving by every day or in every rainstorm checking it. So I don't know that there wasn't already a release there. So anyways, I'd like to focus on what we do know, which is that the site was not properly maintained. And we had, yes, a big rainstorm, but we had water come off the site in an uncontrolled manner towards the erosion control. Property owner had hinted, like I mentioned earlier, I wish that we could just get this amendment done so we could have had the rain garden here, because then this wouldn't have happened. And I said, no, that has nothing to do with this. This is site conditions. This is not stabilizing the site, like especially working in the rain on a site, or disturbing a site in advance of a large rainstorm and not having that maintained. So I have a whole list of history and all of that. This is not the first time we've dealt with site conditions here. I have a whole timeline of stuff dating back to March of 2023, where we've had multiple similar issues on this site before. The property owner has been responsive in these situations, including this one. You know, he said, I'll have my guys out here within the next day or two to, you know, to fix this, or maybe it was after the weekend or something along those lines. But we've talked about all the different conditions a handful of times here. There's a condition that you're supposed to have a stockpile on site, right? All of these things, there's tons of conditions in here that it's on the property owner. The orders of conditions are very specific on how things are supposed to go as far as erosion control and making sure that we don't end up with sediment entering Smelt Brook. And that has not been happening. So again, he has been responsive in there will be action taken afterwards, such as if I said you need more erosion control, he'll put more erosion control up there. In this case, I did point out, you probably need something up there. Put erosion control up there. I said, if you need a wood chip, the whole area that's disturbed, wood chip it. Keep stuff from moving. He did take some steps after that. In my opinion, this has come to the point that the commission has threatened to revoke the permit in the past. That came up when we talked with the extension request, when we talked about the need for a stormwater fix. I'm certainly not suggesting that we do that now. My take on a lot of this is environmental monitor. You know, a lot of permits like this have an environmental monitor that's supposed to be on site whenever there's any work in a sensitive area. In this case, we have the whole 200-foot area, and a lot of that currently is draining down towards the road and the brook, right? So we have the situation now for years where the current system is not working. We have a lot of conditions in place that detail how this work is supposed to happen in a way that's going to keep what happened on September 25th and the other days back to March of 2023 from happening, and it's not happening. So we could discuss all sorts of things. I know he brought Attorney Brodsky to speak to this, and we still have Rick here. My take on this would be an environmental monitor that's a third party.
Which is special condition number 28.
Hold on, let me get there. Environmental monitor, essentially wetland scientist, somebody with experience doing this stuff, I believe should be somebody that the commission approves and not just anybody that the applicant chooses on their own. But I think you should have somebody on site in advance of any large rainstorms and potentially weekly while there's site disturbance. I mean, if there's going to be a condition where the site is going to be stabilized completely, like no exposed soil for a period of time, like the winter, which is sort of also in the conditions there, where if you have an area that's not being actively worked, or, you know, site should be stabilized through the winter with seed and this and that. If you have a situation where the site's going to be stable for a period of time, then you wouldn't need the person to show up. It's not something to try to make the project, you know, unbearably costly for the applicant, but at this point, I think there have been enough issues on this property that I don't think, like, if it keeps going the way it is, we're going to see more of what we saw on September 25th. So I think having somebody on site who understands the wetland side of it and the erosion control side of it that can make recommendations, and if the recommendations aren't followed, then the commission has the ability to issue fines. They have the ability to revoke the permit. You know, I think that it would be a good step in this case to have somebody that has coordination with the Conservation Department and the applicant that can assess these things during the most important times, which is when there's going to be a rainstorm, rather than the way it's been now is, I'm sure they just want to get the project done, they're working, but apparently not paying attention to the weather. And what's been told to me now from several people, including the applicant, is, well, that was just a freak rainstorm. Well, we get those now. Like, we get freak rainstorms maybe once a year, maybe more at this point. And if you have your site properly stabilized, that shouldn't be a huge concern. But when you're not doing anything more than, I would say, the absolute bare minimum, which still isn't meeting all of your special conditions, then that's not the case. So I can get more into specifics if you want. I can answer any questions. I can read through the whole thing if you want. I want to know what level of detail you want to go to. We can pull pictures up. I'm sure you've already reviewed all the pictures. They're very clear.
Questions from?
I don't have a question. I have the list of infractions from, what, January February 22nd back to March 2023?
Yeah, so I started in March of 2021. I don't know when I became aware that there was an active permit on this property. You know, I had talked with Larry several times about conditions in the area before really getting in tune with the fact that he had an open order of conditions with all of these permit conditions. So it wasn't until about March 2023 that it was brought to my attention that there were stormwater issues on the site. And that's when I started to periodically pay attention, you know, and communicate with the applicant about, you know, the need to do more, which is, you know, to sort of wrap up all of the conditions and everything together is like, it essentially says that it's on the applicant to do whatever is necessary to prevent input into Smelt Brook. Smelt Brook was a big sticking point in the original filing, and we've discussed it earlier, the difference between riverfront area and previously disturbed riverfront area, but you're still talking direct inputs into the stream itself, right? Into the impoundments of that stream, so not ideal.
Adverse effects.
Yeah, yeah. I would say obvious adverse effects. You have several instances through this timeline of a plume of sediment-laden water getting into that system. So.
And again, as I pointed out, under that special condition, there should have been an erosion control monitor involved.
Right. The erosion control monitor wasn't specified to be a wetlands professional or
No,
anything of
no.
that. So essentially, the general contractor, the site manager for the general contractor is what I was given as, here's our erosion control person. So I think that's not good enough. It's clear that that's not good enough. And I think having somebody on site, you know, I specified it as, let me see. I wrote, one solution that could help is to require a third-party environmental monitor to be on site for portions of construction. In this scenario, the applicant would contract a wetlands professional with sufficient experience in construction oversight to be on site during important portions of work. Yeah, they should be on site in advance of any substantial rain event. I threw out half-inch or greater as a placeholder. I don't know if anybody wants to discuss that. And once per week in the absence of such an event. Again, it doesn't have to be 3-4 hours on site. I mean, the person could drive through the site probably 15-20 minutes if there are no issues and be gone. If there are issues, they're going to stop, they're going to talk to contractors on site, they're going to call the general contractor, or they're going to call the property owner, and they're going to make recommendations based on what they're seeing to make sure that site is stabilized before the next rainstorm so that we don't end up with further sedimentation of Smelt Brook. You don't have further adverse effects. I wrote, they would have the authority to require changes to erosion and sedimentation controls and site conditions in order to prevent further sedimentation of Smelt Brook, or fines would be issued by this office, and the commission would consider revoking the OOCs. This requirement could be put on hold for any periods of time where the site was determined to be stable and no ground disturbance would occur. I wrote, the commission does have the authority and likely has enough evidence of wetland impacts to revoke the OOCs now if they so choose. I would argue that the use of an environmental monitor is more appropriate, but that's up to the commission.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So, Matt, it sounds like on the order of conditions, we have the ability to compel them to have the monitor. It's just that we didn't require it to be an independent party, and at this point, we're feeling that we can no longer trust their ability to manage this on their own, and we need a independent third party to come in and kind of give them a passing grade or a failing grade and tell them what to fix before the rain falls again and we have to deal with another sediment release into whatever resource area we're protecting here. Is that it?
Yeah, and I mean, I would think that an enforcement order under, you know, state and local regs could compel that. I think that would work fine. I mean, we have several other instances of fines being issued, you know, to this applicant for inputs into Smelt Brook. So we don't have, you know, and we have a clear violation from September 25th that is yet to be dealt with that we're talking about now. So I mean, we have, you know, plenty of example there that the commission can make a determination like that and issue that.
Matt, in the previous episodes where you had to go out there, is this a matter of them not putting enough erosion control up, or putting it up and then taking it down and not putting it back up again because it's such a long project? What are we looking at? Should we be thinking about compelling additional steps like wood chips in this enforcement order as well? Because they're just all over the place and they're gonna make a mess, continue to make a mess, and it's construction, I get it, it's gonna be messy. But what's your recommendation on that? Should we, is a monitor, a third-party monitor enough, or do you think that we should be compelling more action proactively because this has been such a problematic site?
So those are two questions. The first answer is all of the above. It has been old erosion control, fell apart over time. It has been additional erosion control was not added where it should have been added. It has been stockpiles not being covered, stockpiles being stored where they shouldn't be stored. In this case, we had a porta potty right up against where the road is, right where all of this sediment-laden stuff was coming through, and it specifies in the special conditions, no, whatever they called it, portable toilets within the 200-foot portion, riverfront area portion of the property. So there's a lot over the years. To answer the second question, I think an environmental monitor can handle all of that. I recommend wood chips now, like, to a lot of different contractors where we have these issues, and I get laughed at sometimes, or they say, oh, that would never work, or that wouldn't, then we'd have to remove them, or all these things. And it's like, if you have a property where you're gonna make a mess and leave it a mess for a long time, wood chip it, 3-4 inches of wood chips. By the time you finish the project, they may be degraded enough that you can just loam right over them and do your grass or whatever you're doing. If not, you scrape them off, either get rid of them or push them to the edges of the property or something along those lines. I mean, it's enough wood chips on a disturbed area, especially with going over it with a machine, will likely make a significant impact in keeping sediment from moving off site. In this particular situation, I'm not gonna recommend mandating that because I don't know how long they're gonna keep a particular area open. I recommended that to the property owner, that if they're gonna disturb an area and leave it open for a while, get some wood chips dumped here. You can get wood chips dumped for free. Spread them all out, run them over, flatten it. Add whatever erosion control around that you need. Keep the stuff from getting out into the driveway and the road and from going towards there. But I think an environmental monitor would recommend anything that they think is appropriate for the different situations. And I think it's two things. One is that they're gonna bring some expertise to it. They're gonna bring the attention to it of making sure they're paying attention to where there could be potential issues, but it's also going to get the property owner and the contractors that are currently working there to be thinking more about this stuff, because they know somebody's gonna be showing up in advance of storms or once a week or whatever it is to make these recommendations. So it's just gonna, I think, help in general to get the project where it should be, which is in line with the conditions.
In compliance.
And finishing, right? Because if the commission revokes the permit at any point that it's in the middle of disturbance, then we're using the enforcement process constantly to try to get them to stabilize the site while they're trying to figure out what their next steps are, and that's not really ideal. Like, the ideal thing is that they just get it back in line, get everything in compliance, and keep building it, and get all these infiltration galleries built so that they're getting more water in the ground, and everything can become stable and everybody can be happy. I think this is one way that can get done that I don't think is a huge financial burden, to somebody that's building a project, especially of this size. I don't think it's something that we're not recommending a frequency that's so, disturbing to, you're gonna have somebody there every day for, you're paying somebody's salary for an entire year on a project. It's as minimal as it needs to be to make sure that we don't have to do this again and we don't have to get there and see brown water going into Smellbrook.
And this just can't continue the way it's been going.
All right, well, let's hear from,
Well, good evening, everyone. Again, Adam Brodsky, and I represent Royson Properties LLC, and Mr. DeMar. I would certainly recommend to Mr. DeMar that we work with Mr. Pinella to come up with a condition for an environmental monitor. it seems perfectly appropriate to then have that environmental monitor determine whether we may need additional erosion control measures such as wood chips. I certainly don't have the expertise to speak to any of those issues, but it seems like a reasonable path forward. I can't speak to any of the historic events. I would remind the commission that there's a statute of limitations for violations, 2-year statute of limitations, 131, section 91. I was going to focus on the events in September. And I'm not sure anyone's using it as an excuse that it was a freak storm, but I'm led to believe that was the highest amount of rain received in the shortest amount of time, at least in modern record keeping. But there's no question that we need to do a better job of managing erosion on this site. So if you give us the opportunity, I recommend that we work with Mr. Pinella and come up with a stronger condition with respect to an environmental monitor that addresses your concerns.
Just as an aside, that storm with the 8 inches was just over Kingston. Surrounding towns didn't get it. We just got hit with that odd storm.
I think we got 6 inches in Situate, which is again a very large
Right.
storm in a
We're
short period of time.
Everybody got a lot of water,
Yes.
right, but.
No,
Kingston
again,
got-
and I'm not,
Thank
I'm
you.
not suggesting that we're not going to see storms of this.
No,
but-
and that's not what I
But we're gonna have to
meant,
start
yeah.
thinking about things differently. I'm already dealing with changes to the stormwater standards, the design storm events are being changed. The regulations are catching up to
Yeah,
climate change, and
Right.
this is all part of that. So I represent, obviously, the development community, we recognize that, and we need to get ahead of this.
yeah. It's just that Kingston was a bullseye, that's all. Yeah.
We have this property on the December 10th meeting for the continuance of the request for amendment. Do you want to, because obviously we can, I can work with them on a solution, but at some point it should come back before the commission to bless whatever happens.
Since it's already in a special conditions, do you need a motion that authorizes you to require the environmental monitor?
As
Yeah,
much-
it's just going to take that the special condition isn't,
It's not as tight as you're describing and that you're
I think we need a motion before we
acknowledging.
can continue.
I don't know if we need it if we're going to work on it. So my take is, we need to wrap up enforcement issues before they come off the agenda. So us agreeing to come to something doesn't do anything. You'd have to have me issue an enforcement order to compel
Right.
something, which then just wastes my time. Please don't.
Well,
Putting it off to December 10th allows us to come to an agreement
Yeah.
before it comes back in front of the commission. The commission hopefully hears what we have to say and goes, fantastic.
And we can resolve.
Right, I mean,
the enforcement
procedurally, you
that
can
way.
do it one of two ways. One, you make this a condition of your enforcement order. Or second, I guess you could roll this into an amended order which would contain a more robust condition. Again, the existing conditions of the order remain in effect, but that wouldn't prevent you from, providing more detail in an amended order. So you have two, I think, regulatory avenues to address the same problem.
I think for
Matt, you're
now, I'd
asking
rather
for us to
keep it
continue it
separate.
and let you guys put it together so that we can vote
That's
on it next time?
what I would say.
So you'll bring it finished for
I
us?
don't know.
And it's convenient that it's also going to be the same night as the request
Right.
for amendment, so if they come back with the most compelling request for the commission in that sense, and you're going to actually issue amended orders of conditions, potentially something like that could get wrapped into that, instead of having to issue an enforcement order with those specifics in there. So that there are multiple ways to go about it, and we can
So make a motion to continue.
put all those.
Was that December 10th?
December 10th.
The motion to continue this enforcement matter on 20 Marion Drive, 1 Royston Drive to December 10th. Do I have a second on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
See
Glad you
then.
could come in person tonight.
It would have been impossible to do remotely in my car.
Yeah, that would have been great.
I'm supposed to be at another meeting. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Thank you so much.
Rick, have a good night.
Night.
Good night, Mr. Grady.
All right, we got meeting minutes.
Yeah, okay, great. Has everybody seen this? Did we sign this?
I don't know if everybody saw them. We could ask.
Did everybody see the meeting minutes from
Yeah.
July 9th, 2025?
One of those, I looked at them just a minute ago and I
And
couldn't
July
find it. but
23?
The dog regulations, the date for it to go into whatever is 2015.
The look back,
Huh?
the look back period.
That's-
Oh, is it wrong in the thing?
Well, I don't know.
Does it say 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was,
The commission voted that to be a 10-year look back
oh, okay,
period.
okay, I got it. Yeah, I do remember that now. It just didn't make sense at the time. Okay.
Do you have to vote to accept those minutes?
So is everybody ready to vote on this?
Yeah.
If everybody's seen them, and I
Yep.
didn't specify who was at both of these meetings, so everybody just voted.
Attendance
Wait, I'll
was,
Bring it back up again if that's problematic.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
well, which one? Are you going to make
All
a
right, do we
motion
have
to
a
approve
motion to
July
approve the
9th?
minutes of July 9th?
Make a motion to approve July 9th minutes.
Wait a
Second.
second. Okay, all in favor?
Second.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 23rd.
Second.
All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. And the updates then on the CPC.
I submitted 2 CPC placeholders. These were just the project notification forms, one of which would be to buy 83 Wapping Road, which is the
It's my
remaining...
car saying, get that.
Is that yours?
I don't know.
It's the remaining parcel owned by Roger Carrera on Wapping Road. Roger kept the westernmost parcel, which
Yeah.
is just shy of 4 acres, and it contains our easement to Hathaway Preserve. He did indicate that he may be willing to, work with us on our timeline. So I had already thrown something into CPC for that, but now I'm a little happier about putting the rest of the application together. Obviously, there's always issues cost-wise and appraisal-wise and all those things, but we are going to attempt to move forward with that because that is something that adding to our existing property and adding meaningful access to it would be a big benefit. I also put in a placeholder for 8 and 20 Maple Street. We've discussed that at length, where we were going to try to do a project there between conservation and maybe affordable housing. It is currently under agreement with a developer. I'm told that they only had a short period of time left to either complete their purchase or walk after doing due diligence, so I wanted to throw something in as a placeholder in case that happens. I don't know how much money is going to be in CPC this year. We're a 1% town that spends all of their money every year, seemingly. So we're certainly not going to have enough money to do both of those, but placeholders.
Okay,
It's great.
what about grants?
Grants. I was going to write out a whole detailed thing on this, and I didn't.
Okay.
Did I tell the commission already we got a grant on Rocky Nook for stormwater? We got a CZM, Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Grant to do design and permitting of stormwater BMPs on Drew and Seaver Aves. 2 roads on Rocky Nook that are residential, that have a steep slope that go right out into the bay. And we had actually had complaints from residents of one of those roads about the runoff down there, so we're gonna try to do something about that. We are rapid fire throwing applications out there for all sorts of stuff now. Lake Street Culvert is one of the biggest ones we're trying to get funding on. We did not get funding on the Lake Street Culvert from MVP this year, and we did not get funding from the Recreational Trails Grant for the Bates Pond stuff, which is unfortunate. But we're continuing to put stuff out there. DOT just came out with a culvert grant that can cover up to, I think it's $1 million. So we're going to be throwing all sorts of stuff out there with Lake Street as our biggest focus. And that, I think, is all I have for grant updates at the moment.
Need a motion to adjourn?
I think that's all we got.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to thank the local scene and Zach for your courtesy. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Let's stay. All right, see you next time.